Hello and welcome to NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all. Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of rapid fire racing action in the one and only NXTGEN Racing Touring Car Championship Season 7, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, our title sponsor for this season. And well, what a season it has been, but it's not over yet as we make our way towards the highest point of the season, and the climax is only a week away. With 10 rounds, we have completed 8 of them and we are on to round 9 of 10 today, here back in the United Kingdom for the one and only Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. A circuit that is at the very heart of British motorsport and located in the county of Kent or the Garden of England near the town of West Kingsdown. Is a circuit like no other when it puts priority on qualifying position and therefore track position, with overtaking proving extremely difficult. But many of you may be asking, why exactly is that? Well, with its short overall length, or the best part of what is 2 miles, and on top of that as well, its narrow road racing surface, and on top of that, its 9 fast-flying corners. It is a circuit where momentum is critical and being late on the brakes is not always good enough in order to be able to make an overtake. Around here, it's about staying close to your rivals, putting pressure on them and goading them into a misfortunate mistake, which could see them open up the door to you diving down the inside and making an overtake. But even so, making a car wide enough to occupy the entire road surface is not too difficult. And in our relatively wide touring car racing machines, we can see plenty of battling today, and we could definitely see the defensive boxing gloves our drivers get on as our drivers look to hold on to position and potentially set themselves up for success going into our season finale into August in a week's time. Boys, we'll welcome you all to this broadcast live from the circuit side for your viewing pleasure. Well, hello to you guys and girls tuning in via the many media platforms, of which of course we do have firstly the official NXTGEN Racing media platforms. There are 2 of them. One of them on YouTube at youtube.com and search for NXTGEN Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. And you have the alternative, of course, of tuning in via Facebook at facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Facebook. We also do have the 3rd broadcast platform available, and that is the unofficial broadcast on Twitch. And that's at twitch.tv/TX141. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. But I hear you ask, who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself as your host and commentator for this season. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit in a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action over the course of today, indeed the entirety of the season campaign. And speaking of today, or tonight I should say, let's take you through our times in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1 at UTC +1. And as we can see, in just under 18 minutes time, we'll be making our way into the qualifying session, our penultimate qualifying session, 15 minutes in duration, and then we'll be heading into our 3 races, all 11 laps in length. Start off with race number 1 being at 8:15 this evening, and then after a brief breather we'll be returning for the gridding procedure just shy of 9 o'clock this evening for race number 2, and then we'll be heading to race number 3 at approximately 9:45, albeit not without that all-important reverse grid draw. And it definitely has been a number of rounds in recent string where those reverse grid draws have proven to be the fallacy or indeed the success of many a driver. But could we see the reverse grid draw shake things up once again, given the fact we have all 4 of our championships still wide open, albeit one of them is most likely to be wrapped up today and the other 3 could be wrapped up in extreme circumstances, but we'll have to wait and see. But speaking of our championship campaign so far and what's still lying in wait, well, here we can see our calendar, and well, we have made our way to the 1st of October 2024, and today of course it is the Brands Hatch circuit that plays host to our drivers. And after today, on the 8th of October, we head to Brazil for the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, or you will know and love it and refer to it typically as Interlagos. But let's wind back the tapes, let's wind back the clock. We start off all the way back on the 23rd of July, 2024, with the circuit to Barcelona, Catalonia playing host to our drivers, and its Grand Prix circuit definitely setting the tone of the season. We then made our way to Germany for round number 2 at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg circuit, and then on the 30th of July, we saw many a bump and scrape and many an elbows-out battle between our drivers before they made their way to Japan for the first time this season for the Fuji International Speedway. On the 6th of August, it was all about the long start finish straight and the sweeping corners of Fuji, and many of our drivers there coming unstuck, and some rather notable successes from those down low in the field. And then we made our way to United States of America for our single visit this season, albeit our first ever visit to the Charlotte Motor Speedway's Roval in the North Carolina state. And there we got to see many of our drivers have their fears unfounded with those close walls and indeed those very shaky moments, albeit a rather nasty accident wiping out a good portion of the top 10 in race number 3 through close racing led to an opportunity for many a driver further down the order, but that's how it went at the Charlotte Roval. And then we wrapped up the first half half of the season, our first ever feature race special on the 20th of August, and you all absolutely loved it, and it was an absolutely fantastic spectacle at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. And there was Andy Fox, of course, who brought home the first ever feature race win in that 60-minute race, and the Pro-Am driver bringing home the top step. And then we made our way into our mid-season break, 2 weeks in duration, before returning for round number 6 on the 10th of September. And that was at the Circuit de Magny-Cours, with the wet weather arriving on the iRacing simulator service, the TCR class. We got to see plenty of wet weather action there, and that really has been the theme for the second half of the season, with the wet weather continuing on the 17th of September at the Snetterton Circuit, the 300 layout, taking over from Alton Park, albeit we may have been a bit disappointed not to go to Alton Park due to capacity constraints, but I can tell you one thing, Snetterton absolutely delivered. And last time out the Suzuka International Racing Course on the 24th of September, we got to see history made in a battle between what was Benjamin McCluskey, and on top of that as well, if my memory serves me correctly, none other than Wojciech Doble, where the two of them in the end finished the race separated by only 2 thousandths at the finish line. It was even closer than, I think it was 1 thousandth in fact, but it was Benjamin McCluskey who took the victory in race number 1 there. Indeed, we saw history get made, an absolutely incredible race in Japan, but we're here in the United Kingdom today to continue on the story and see how our drivers get underway. As they go into today, let's give you an update on the championship standings with only 2 rounds remaining. And as we can see, with no drop scores accounted for in these points, they will be applied going into the season finale. Wojciech Swirydowicz leads the way overall in the Drivers' Championship with 1,146 points, and with a sizable advantage over Benjamin McCluskey, being the best part now of what is 241 points. It is arguably a formality for the Semper Racing driver to successfully defend his title and become a 2-time NXTCC champion. He would need to not score any points today, and for McCluskey to take victory in all 3 races to keep the championship hunt well and truly open. But then again, anything can happen in the NXTCC. Indeed, many of you remember all the way back in Season 1, it was that titanic fight between Jamie Dory and Gavin Gardner, where Dory picked up the inaugural NXTCC crown in a day where it all went wrong for Gavin Gardner by comparison. Indeed, this Brands Hatch circuit could throw in a few spanners in the works. But meanwhile, the battle for P2 is squarely on, because Mikey Doble sits P3 on 715 points, and whilst he may be 190 points behind McCluskey, keep in mind the drop score not accounted for here, and Doble is encroaching fast. Lee Horne is hot on his heels, however, on 695 points, and it's a sizable gap of the best part of 69 points to Adam Delmont in P5, albeit Delmont's got his eyes on holding on to the top 5 finish, with Wojciech Doble just behind, and Andrew Pint not too far for the Sim Racing Collective. Is then Jamie Dory, Ben Altria and Andy Fox to complete your top 10, noting that Ben Altria is our leading Pro-Am driver in the overall Drivers' Championship, and he and Fox are continuing to have an absolutely brilliant battle. And let's not be rude and exclude what is there Matthew Addy in P11, who sits just outside the top 10 and is looking to break his way in before the season is over. Gavin Gardner sits P12, just ahead of Alex Meredith by 4 points, with Duncan Moraes and Matthew Sheraton completing the top 15. And it's Russell Fowler P16 as he looks to fend off Sam Van Olst, with Jonathan Robrix, Toby Prosser and Joseph Doble completing the top 20. From the 364 points of Joseph Doble, we come to what is there the 349 points of James Smasgasgow in P21. And of Liam Silkstone. And it's Alan McCain on 314 points, who's had a mixed set of fortunes in recent rounds. He's fallen outside the top 20 and be looking to rebound as soon as possible, given the fact that Adam McNally is just behind him, and McNally as well has had a troubling season, albeit he'll be hoping for better fortune before the day is over. Tom Davison sits P25 for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of Michael at least by the best part there of what is at 7 points. And it's Nick Clearings, Pedro Diaz, Slawomir Jaworski and Larice Pascucci complete your top 30. And from the Valkyrie X-Type driver, it's then Reese Watt P31 ahead of Patrick Falconer, with Matt Emmons, your leading AM driver, moving into P33 on 182 points. The best part there, what is 14 clear of Mark Sykes, with Mitchell West not too far behind P35, with the Australian driver coming on strong in recent rounds, and then Harley Bicknell, Ian Manners, Jonathan Collins, Sam Smith, and also there none other than Vincent and Blair completing your top 40. We come outside the top 40 from the 120 points of Blair to Daniel Fritz, who's a further 8 behind in P41. And it's Luke Jones P42 on 111 as their scrap for P41 continues to get ever tighter. And Marcel Fritsch also getting into that battle ahead of Dimitri Coulomb, with Sam Bradley P45 ahead of Piotr Jegowski. Roy Plummer sits on 62 points, 2 clear of Jake Pitt, with Craig Tillotson and Mark Kent completing your top 50. And I'm very pleased to say that Mark Kent is expected to be back on the grid today, given the fact that he is working through a number of technical issues, but is hoping those technical gremlins have gone away. So keep your eyes out for the Full Tilt Motorsport AM driver. And then we have Costa Chatscontinental in P51, head Dylan Mystery, with Josh Brown, Kevin Smith and Lewis Mason, the last of your point scorers. And then yet score any points, Mike Kurtler, Thomas Delaney, Gabriel Yilmaz, Andrew Parkin and Andy Coleman completing your 60 entrants this season. But then we come onto the Prime Drivers' Championship, and here the complexion, with the points rearranged for the Prime finishing positions, is not too far off of the overall Drivers' Championship. However, whilst Ben Ultrier continues to lead, 900 points to the 868 of second place man, it's not Andy Fox in second place, it's Matthew Addy, and that goes to show you the ebb and flow of overall finishing positions between the top three, and the fact that with Matthew Sheraton only what is 3 points behind Andy Fox, well, right now it is anybody's game in terms of what is that top 7 for the hunt for the Prime Championship crown. Ben Ultrier may be holding on to a lead by 32 points, but he won't be getting complacent, and Andy Fox will know that points mean prizes, and he needs to score big today to get clear of Matthew Sheraton and Duncan Rises in P5 and be able to get himself right back into the square fight. But outside the top 5, from the Goldwing Motorsport driver of Moraes, it's his teammate Sam Van Olst, only what is the best part of 13 points behind, with Russell Fowler sitting a distant P7, keep your eyes out for him. Alex Meredith, who unfortunately has multiple drop scores to his name of 0 points at this point, is not going to be contesting the championship crown, but what he will be doing is definitely trying to take some more wins, and he definitely has been the man to beat in the last couple of rounds. Head of James Smousers-Gowan and Alan McCain to complete your Prime top 10. Toby Prosser sits P11, the man who seems to be the rain maestro at the moment of our overall grid, and well, the 606 points they're going to be added to tonight, surely. He's ahead of Michael Lees by the best part of 42 points, and it's Nick Clemens, Liam Silkstone and Slamir Jalvosky who complete your top 15. And from the ever-enthusiastic Jalvosky, it's Mark Sykes a further 7 points behind, ahead of Tom Davidson, with Luke Jones, Sam Smith and Ian Manners completing your top 20. Outside the top 20 in our primes, it's Pedro Diaz, P21, ahead of Emblair, P22. And then we do have Jake Pitt, Harley Bicknell, and what is then none other than Jegosleski completing the top 25, Piotr Jegosleski in particular. And then we see Dimitri Coulon, Andy Coleman, and Andrew Parkin completing the Prime Championship standings. We then come on to the AM class, last but not by no means least, as I almost stumble over my words there. And as we can see, Matt Emmons leads the way, and indeed he's taken the lead, and he hasn't looked back since the start of the racing at Suzuka last week. But Mitchell West is not too far behind in what could have been heartbreak at Suzuka for West in race number 3, as that gamble on the wet tyres, despite falling to the back of the running order on the open lap, that gamble enabled him to pick up a win where Emmons picked up wins in races 1 and 2. Well, West is keeping his hopes alive despite having a very major hit with the barriers at Suzuka, and he'll be hoping for a much simpler day today in order to level the playing field. However, don't count out WS Racing Esports' Marcel Fritsch, who's enjoyed a strong second half of the season, nor Whiskey Runners Racing's Daniel Fritz in P4, as that top 4 right now is getting ever tighter, and they are your 4 main championship contenders. Meanwhile, Roy Plummer looks to try and hold on to P5 ahead of Sam Bradley by a single point in their fight for 5th place. Jonathan Collins sitting a further 26 afield, and it's Craig Tillerson, Mark Kent and Costa Chatscontinent who complete your top 10. Outside the top 10, it's Gabriel Yilmaz, P11 ahead of Mike Kurtler, with Lewis Mason, Dylan Mystery and Josh Brown completing the top 15. Kevin Smith sits P16, and Thomas Delaney on 0 points completes the AM Championship standings. But then we come to the Teams Championship, and so bringing it up to speed, NXTGEN Pink are continuing in their successful title defence so far. Their advantage there? The best part of what is 247 points over Doble Sim Racing. Keep in mind, of course, that Doble Sim Racing have missed a couple of rounds this season, so they're really fighting for P2 at this point, and it looks so NXTGEN Pink could have things in the bag if they score big today, albeit it won't be confirmed until the final checker flag in a week's time, unless some absolutely extreme results were to occur. Semper Racing won't be wanting the extreme to happen unless it's in their favour. They sit P3, and they're only ahead of Sam Case of the NXTGEN by 72 points, and it's a further, what is their 31 points to SO and NXTGEN Gold, as this fight for the top 5 right now, and particularly the top 5 teams, is extremely close. But it would be rude of us to exclude Goldwing Motorsports from that consideration in P6 on 993 points, and they're being tailed closely by Aztec Racing, and really Aztec Racing and Goldwing Motorsports could be the ones to spring some surprises and get back into the top 5 before the end of today. The Sim Racing Collective have recently fallen down to P8, and they'll be hoping for a bit more today. They're still ahead of JW Motorsport, however, and Valkyrie Excite complete the top 10. Outside the top 10 from 644 points of Valkyrie Exide, it is then 562 points of Whiskey Runners Racing, as they look to fend off Iris Esports to the best of the rest spot, with Full Tilt V Motorsport P13 ahead of Performance Link Esports. Verona Motorsport P15 and a strong campaign from them, and then WS Racing Esports, Mitch West Performance, NXTGEN Red, 287 Motorsport, and our private outfit there in P20 wrap up the team's championship standings. So coming from our championship stands, let's talk a little bit about our circuit for today. And located just in the proximity of the West Kingsdown town in the county of Kent in England and the United Kingdom, you'll find none other than the Grand Prix layout of the Brands Hatch circuit. And thank you to iRacing for their brilliant circuit maps that come with the absolutely fantastic simulator. Now this circuit, as you can see on the screen from the track map, looks simple in nature, but it is anything but that to master its 9 terrifically tricky corners. As it's a fast-flowing circuit, you do have multiple elevation changes as well to consider, but as the drivers roar around the just over 2-mile circuit, they'll find it's all about finding that flow, and quickly so. For as they come across the start-finish straight, they'll make their way into Paddock Hill Bend, the highest point of the circuit, as they descend down through turn number 1 before charging uphill in towards turn number 2 at Druids. There, through the low-speed hairpin, they'll make their way through the long right-hander before coming downhill into Graham Hill Bend at turn number 3. Well, there we can expect many a driver to look for that late apex and potentially go a bit deep. Then they'll make their way onwards towards turn number 4, the Surtees corner, with the never appearing apex until you finally find it. It's a very late apex for a left-hander, and then they'll make their way all the way down Pilgrim's Drop and in towards turn number 5 at Hawthorns. There it's the fast right-hander, which will see the drivers go uphill and how to abuse the camber of the road before they make their way up the Derrickminster Straight in towards Westerville Bend at turn number 6. And there it's a downhill drop through Sheen in towards Dingle Dell at turn number 7. And as they crest turn number 7, they'll need to avoid understeering wide as the grass will take them to the barriers. But if they get it right, they'll go into Stirling's Bend at 8, and he'll be a quick charge down towards 9 at Clearways to complete the lap and do it all over again. As for our rules, to give you a quick reminder, it's a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers ahead of each and every race. Driver class-wise, they were finalised as the conclusion of round number 3. We do have some new names on the grid today, but no class changes, and you will be seeing none other than what is, firstly, the father of the Doble family, Mike Doble. He'll be taking over one of the Doble sim racing machines. I believe he might be taking over from Joseph Doble today, and he's going to be racing in the Prime class. And you're also going to be seeing out there John Higgins Jr., who makes a return in the Prime class after a bit of a hiatus, but he has been a veteran of the NXTCC, particularly in seasons 1 through to 5, and we're looking forward to seeing him out there in the sim racing collective machinery. As for our sprint race grids, well, they'll be set based firstly on the results of qualifying for race number 1. For race number 2, the grid will be set based on results of race 1, and the race 3 grid shall be set based on results of race 2, albeit we partially reverse the grid between P13 and P23, and that will all be based on a lottery draw done from the commentary booth. We'll be doing it live, and well, we'll see where we reverse the grid from. Each rider has one fast repair available in each race, and each race shall conclude after either the allotted lap amount or 30 minutes. And with 11 laps of racing, we are expecting the races to be approximately 20 minutes in length, depending on the weather. On top of that, an independent race director is stewarding the races for track limit infringements and the deployment of the safety car. And as always, if our drivers get up to 2 warnings, there's no penalty. On the 3rd warning for track limits, they'll get a 5-second post-race time penalty. We double it to 10 on the 4th warning. On the 5th warning, you've earned yourself a drive-through penalty that must be served within 3 laps of being awarded. Meanwhile, all racing incidents shall be reviewed post-round. We also continue to run our success bars for the overall Drivers' Championship, alongside what is the Prime and AM class championships, and well, we are going to see the success ballast applied for qualifying in race number 1 based on the championship stands, which we've just brought you up to date with, and for races 2 and 3 we do it iteratively based on the results of the previous race. And well, we won't go through all the success ballast phase, but there are the tables if you do want to grab a quick screenshot and have a look at your anorax in terms of who's going to be taking what way into qualifying and race number 1. But as we do make our way back to circuit side, well, we have got an absolutely packed schedule for today, no doubt about it. And as we do look here to our overall championship leader as he comes through the trees, Wojciech Swirydowicz there, it is a very wet day at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, and I can tell you, given the fact that I, as your commentator, just live up the road from Brands Hatch, it has been absolutely miserable these last few days in the county of Kent, and I would imagine that as a result that weather being reflected on the iRacing simulator platform, and it has been horrendous. And I can imagine right now that our drivers have to contest with some very tricky conditions indeed. And well, we do have the big question, of course, of whether the BTCC, the championship decider this coming weekend, is going to be settled as a result of some rather extreme conditions. But still, come back here to the present for Wojciech Swirydowicz. He just needs to keep a cool head and bring on home some points today, and he will be a 2-time NXTCC overall drivers champion. And I get the feeling that's going to be exactly the goal of the Semper Racing driver in the number 1. He's number 1 for a reason, and he'll make sure to bring it on home today. Now, we do say hello in the respective chats there on Facebook to Katie Eames, and I'm doing very well, thank Mikey, Katie, and I hope you're doing well as well, and wishing all the best luck to the Verona Motorsports boys tonight, and that is Matt Evans and Craig Tillerson. We also do say hello there to Average Joe in the YouTube chat, who's talking about the retro liveries. And whilst Semper Racing may not be running some retro liveries today, you are going to be seeing out there a number of throwback liveries, and this is all thank you to our AM driver Daniel Fritz, who organised for the purposes of this round, because the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit is perhaps seen as the historical venue on the NXTCC camera, and in regards to the Super Touring era of what was the British Touring Car Championship, particularly in the late 80s and throughout the 90s and the early noughties. But you will be seeing a number of liveries on the cars in tribute either to the Super Touring era or the older BTCC era, and you're seeing here one, for example, on where's the Audi RS3 at JPIP Aztec Racing, and running the livery of the Audis of older from the 90s in the Super Touring era, where you will be seeing some teams run older liveries that they ran early on in their NXTCC's careers. And in particular, keep your eyes out for Whiskey Runners Racing, who are going to be running one. And if you do spot some liveries out there, be sure to shout them out in your respective chat as to which car you think they are referencing or which team of the older era. We'll call them out when we do see them as well where we can. But speaking of calling things out here, we do need to call out and say hello to Costa Chats Continental, who's back on the grid today in the AM class, and he's just come back from Brands for the GB4 Championship. And we also say hello to Welsh Boy 2012. Good evening to you in the YouTube chat there, Welsh Boy. And well, it's time for a good evening of racing, ladies and gentlemen, because it's time for qualifying. Who will be our pole sitter at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit in these very difficult conditions, and with track position being so key around here? Let's find out. So as we embark away in to qualifying, then 15 minutes, the clock ticks away as it usually does, and we're going to already see Benjamin McCluskey making his way out of the pit lane there, the leading driver to do so. The rain seems to have stopped falling. However, what has not stopped is the fact that we've got plenty of surface water there that's going to need to be gradually displaced and also condensated away, and therefore right now for all the drivers it is going to be about trying to find those grip levels as soon as possible. And I can imagine for those who want to try and go to the dry tyre, and we have a couple going out in the dry tyre, including Semper Racing, Slomir Jarvosky, and also Jonathan Collins, Whiskey Runners Racing, well, it could be a scenario whereby the dry tyre perhaps comes into its own towards the end of qualifying. And well, we did see that of course at Suzuka, where in the end the dry tyre was not the right tyre to be on, particularly for what was the races, but we did see some drivers gamble in it, and none other than Adam Delmont gambled it in race number 1, only to regret it, but still, if you don't gamble, you'll never know. And well, as we do look to Sam Bradley making his way a bit wide there, coming out of what was Druid's Hairpin, and well, I think just gradually rejoining with the wet grass and also the amount of traffic around him. We've got to be cautious there, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be involved in an altercation with your fellow drivers. As he makes his way on through, as he charges his way on around. Well, meanwhile, we do look to what is there and say hello to Mark Ken in the YouTube chat, and of course Mark being on the grid today. And well, we're going to be seeing, I believe, for Full Tilt Motorsports, Renault Laguna tribute liveries, and we'll have to try and see those when we do get the chance. And well, we do have one Full Tilt Motorsport car that didn't quite get the memo, and indeed you might be getting a bit of a flashback to some of the older Peugeot 406s there, and I do believe run by Tim Harvey and also Paul Bradish, unless I'm mistaken. And that's not a Peugeot, that is a Hyundai Elantra, head of the modern era, but that's been piloted by Ben Gregory, a newcomer of course last time out at Suzuka, enjoyed the race in the Prime class and picked up what was a Prime podium in race number 3. He came home P3, and well, absolutely on a mission to try and bring down Alex Meredith alongside teammate Ben Altria, but it wasn't to be. But as he makes his way on down towards what is Hawthorne's, well, there we do see one of the many tribute liveries, and great to see Ben Gregory running that one. And well, as he makes his way on around, we also do look a little bit further afield to Ben Altria, and well, that also there being what is, we do believe, another Peugeot livery as well. So perhaps Mark Kent might be running the Renault livery, unless I'm getting my liveries mixed up. But for some reason, I'm definitely confident that is meant to be a tribute to the Peugeot 406s or the BTCC Super Touring era. But goodness me, off the road there, that was briefly Matt Evans who's taken a trip to the weeds, and that being at Graham Hill Bend, a corner which is very difficult to get right in the dry, given the fact you want to be so far over to the right side of the road surface that what normally happens to those who push the track limits too far is they end up dipping the rear right tyre onto the grass, and they'll send the car around. But Evans there decides to tow back to the pits, wants to get out of the way and get himself a new set of tyres on as well. Won't be too pleased with that, as we look to Benjamin McCluskey making his way around on his first flying lap. And as he comes on through the right-hander, and onwards he goes through what is none other than Westfield Bend, all down through Sheen and into Dingledale he goes, downhill and then up the rise as he roars his way around. Of course, this corner, once previously a chicane, and now turned into a fast-flowing right-hander, and what a corner that can catch out even the very best of drivers. They just push it a little bit too far to the limit. But as McCluskey makes his way onwards towards what will be the final corner coming into clearways, well, he'll set the benchmark time, and he has gone purple to be fair initially, but now we are seeing a bit of response from some other drivers out there, so it does seem as though everybody now picking up the pace to a degree. And as he makes his way on around and towards the time line, well, here comes McCluskey, and what's it going to be to set the bar? It's going to be a 47.381, and behind him Wojciech Swirydowicz with the success bars is almost half a second slow, 47.829, but I suspect Swirydowicz feeling that weight, but also just feeling out the conditions right now. And we have seen these wet conditions, and Swirydowicz has taken a bit more time to get himself up to speed in them, but once he does, he's just as threatening as ever. As he makes his way on down, we do look to Mikey Doble there, and well, celebrated of course what was taking the Jack Sears trophy in the previous round of racing in the BTCC for 2024. Congratulations to Mikey, and we'll run in the Power Max livery there on the Honda Civic Type R FK8, and what absolutely fantastic to see as he makes his way onwards towards Surtees corner for Doble Sim Racing. And when he makes his way on through, we do look there to Craig Tillerson in the AM class, and well, goodness me, I have not seen that livery on a Verona Motorsport car for the best part of a year and a half, if my memory serves me correctly, and that is a throwback to Verona Motorsport's original liveries, and I can still remember their very first outings in the NXTCC, and also in our GT3 and what was our prototype stroke GT3 series, and history being made by Verona Motorsport in those series, no doubt about it. Indeed, many of you remember the exploits of Chris Daines and Gavin Gardner, and Chris Daines also did of course race in the NXTCC and put down some ferocious pace there. And will Craig Tillerson running the retro livery as he makes his way on around, but as he does so here currently in P22, second fastest of our AM drivers at the moment, but plenty of time out there with Sam Bradley up in P9, but very quickly pushed to P10 as Mitchell West suddenly goes even faster. And well, that is a different livery on the car, and I believe that is in reference to an Australian racing team, Fast Track Racing there. I believe Mitchell running that, although I must be honest with you, my Australian domestic racing knowledge is not quite up to standard compared to some other racing knowledge, but if anybody does know, I'm sure they can inform me in their respective chat, whether it's YouTube, Facebook or Twitch. A lovely livery there from Mitchell West, and he was one of the stars of course, and really one of the drivers of the day at Suzuka, with 3 fantastic performances, and bad luck hit him in all 3 races. And of course many of you remember the fact that he finished race 3 in the pit lane as the AM winner, having had a huge shunt to the barrier at the hairpin at Suzuka on what was the penultimate lap, but he didn't give in despite it all and made it on home in the end. But as he does so right now, will he be bringing home some more AM victories today? Can he level the playing field against Matt Emmons? And when I had the chance to catch up with Matt in the build up to today, he was saying to me that he's going to keep applying the same approach that he has over the last couple of rounds, which is points make prizes, and consistency is key to getting those points. He's been consistently on the podium over the last couple of rounds. In fact, he has practically been absolutely unbudgeable off of the podium, and therefore he's got hope that he can just keep it consistent, and therefore it's set himself up for what is an easier run to the championship crown in a week's time at Interlagos. There's no looking back now. Indeed, he's locked in, and as he makes his way towards the timeline here, and we come towards the end of the first half of this qualifying session, what's it going to be from Emmons to get his first lap on the board? Well, in the end it's going to be good enough for P31, but he's got a way to go. That's only good enough for P4 in the AM class, and he'll want to be a lot further up the order. He'll want to be in amongst West, Bradley and Fritz, particularly Fritz and West, with Sam Bradley a bit more of an outsider in the championship battle, but don't rule him out, as meanwhile we do look to Whiskey Runners race. It's Daniel Fritz there, and well, I do believe it's still running at the more traditional livery that we've seen over the course of the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do potentially see them bring out some of their older liveries as well. And well, in fact, my eyes do deceive me. I believe that is one of their older liveries. In fact, I think that is one of their original liveries, and that would be dated back, if my memory serves me correctly, to what would be season 2 of the NXTCC, where we saw Daniel Fritz and company on the grid, and at the time it was Daniel Fritz and Jonathan Collins raced it for Whiskey Runners Racing, if my memory serves me correctly, and that's where we did see the what was the black, grey and into green or blue colour liveries, where of course Fritz running the light green, and what was Jonathan Collins running running the light blue to differentiate them. And I believe we may have also had Mark Sykes running with the team for a brief period, and he may have been running a red, what is a red, black and grey livery, although that may escape my memory. But it's great to see them out there, bringing back one of the older NXTCC liveries. But indeed, going through the history books to coming back to the present. Well, in at this present time, some of our drivers out there still finding some time. And well, speaking of one, and he's got plenty of time to do so, albeit in a livery which hasn't quite loaded on the car, and that is none other than John Higgins Jr. in the Prime class there. And I believe we might be having a bit of a resurgence of one of our old evil glitches from the past with regards to some of our liveries. But as he makes his way on through, we're going to try and get that fixed in the bit in the background. And well, he's representing the Sim Racing Collective, and of course a driver who's had many a win in the NXTCC, and perhaps the most notable being his 3 wins back to back in what was at the time in the Pro class, if my memory serves me correctly, at the Knock Hill circuit, all the way back in season 1, if my memory serves me correctly. In fact, it might be season 3, where it was very early on, but he picked up all 3 wins in a brilliant day for what was himself and father, John Higgins Sr. And well, they absolutely enjoyed a fantastic day of racing, no doubt about it. And as he makes his way around right now, well, unfortunately, we haven't got John Higgins or John Higgins Sr. out on the grid, but what we do have is John Higgins Jr. Well, it's always good to see him out there enjoying it, no doubt about that, as he makes his way onwards towards what will be at the end of this lap, and still plenty more to go as he just finds his feet, and particularly in these wet weather conditions, where I would imagine the wet weather is only going to make things ever more challenging. As he heads along, well, meanwhile, we do look there to Matt Emmons, and well, Emmons, the AM driver right now, who's currently P3 in class in this qualifying session, P34, and well, still more to come as he makes his way on around. And well, meanwhile, speaking of the Rainmeister, here he is, and well, that is a throwback to what is the old Renault Lagunas, and I do believe, really speaking of the Alan Menu and Jason Plato era, so we're coming towards the end of the 90s here, and that was back when Jason Plato really joined the grid in the early stages of his career and really had to prove his place on the grid. Indeed, there's an absolutely brilliant story about how Jason Plato essentially barracked what was at the time Frank Williams as he made his way to the Renault head offices, and well, that's a story you could look up there. And well, Toby Prosser right now bringing out his Plato in the Aztec Racing Elantra as he makes his way on around. But as he does so, we've also got fastest lap now from Tom Davidson, the Sim Racing Collective driver in the 42 Veloster, finding some time with 4 minutes left on the clock. And as he comes on down in towards the braking zone, going in towards the left-hander, and we say hello to John Higgins in the YouTube chat there, and that being Father John Higgins. Well, it's so good to see you tuned in, John. I hope you're doing well. And well, right now Davidson putting the time screens alight, but then there's a response from Wojciech Swirydowicz. This circuit is getting faster, as Swirydowicz now the fastest man out there by 800s, and more and more time trickling on in as Mikey Doble meanwhile goes into what was P10. This is Matthew Cheverton, who's chased after Toby Prossers. They're trying to improve. Isaac Doble now the fastest out there, 45.434, as he heads towards line. Jamie Dory moves up to P2, Michael Lease up to P5, so it's going to all come down to who's the last driver to be out there on circuit at the very end of this qualifying session and then able to hook the lap up, because that will be where the optimum lap time is, as we can see Isaac Doble practically drifting his way into Graham Hill Bend. Well, to be fair, catching the car very well and carrying a lot of speed in doing so, and well, that may be the art. Perhaps you've got to be a little bit loose around here now in these wet conditions in order to maximise that lap time. But as he comes on through, and we say hello there in the Twitch chat to IronDuck92, and I hope you're doing well, IronDuck. Well, right now, it's Isaac Dobles to lose, it would seem. But speaking of places losers, Matt Emmons has taken a provisional and pole, albeit only by half a tenth over Sam Bradley, where it's incredibly close between these two. And we're going to jump on board with Sam Bradley here for a flying lap of a very wet Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. So he makes his way up towards the timeline here and just fighting with the steering, albeit able to straighten it out now. He'll head in towards Paddock Hill Bend, and here braking nice and early around the 100 metres board, just easing the car in, albeit with the car coming out the pit lane, having to negotiate a bit of understeer and a compromised line, but absolutely brings it back together to Sam Bradley as he now breaks his way at the 50 board in towards Druids Bend. Emmons in front and going a little bit deep, but does get the car rotated through. Bradley taking a more conventional line as they now come on down the hill and in towards Graham Hill Bend, and having to brake there at the initial kink before the corner in order to settle the car down. But you can see how the car trying to snap loose as Emmons runs wide on exit and pulls over to the left-hand side, lets Bradley go, And Bradley now onto the brakes. He's braking nice and early, about 100 minutes of corner apex. And there is the apex at long last. You don't see it on an entry, you only see it about 2/3 of the way into the corner, and then you've got to stamp the throttle, or in this case, squeeze the throttle on it gradually and pick up the pace as he now makes his way down through Pilgrim's Drop, the long straight, and in towards Hawthorns. But as he does so here, he's going to be looking at a 54. That's his brake marker, dropping from 5th to 4th to 3rd at an apex of 78 miles an hour. And as he comes out to the right hand and now into Westfield Bend, and here it's all about carrying momentum on the GP loop as he comes through the right hand and making sure not to run too wide out there. It's very slippery on that AstroTurf curve, and now coming on through Sheen in towards Dingledale at the 54 there. That's where you've got to dab the brakes, turn the car in, lets the car roll out there and carry a bit more speed. Now over to the right for Sterling's at the 54 where the Marshall's post is, avoids the apex curve there not to lose traction, but carries speed in second gear as he makes his way onwards now towards what will be clearways. With a minute to go, Sam Bradley have one more lap after this at the 54 there. That's his brake marker through the turn 9 right-hander, and as he builds up the speed now, fighting with the car every step of the way, refuses to point straight. But for Sam Bradley, has he done enough? He's improved in the second half of the lap, there's no question about it, but how quick is it going to be? It's P9 for Sam Bradley, a 45.672. That is a sensational lap, and can Emmons respond at the last minute here as Bradley immediately cools things down? He thinks he's done enough, and Emmons goes past him and says, right, I now know what I've got to do. But as they head towards what will be the end of this session, Benjamin McCluskey goes P6, drops to P5, in fact, drops to P6 of Wojciech Swirydowicz, improving to P2. But Sam Smith has been a revelation for iRacing Esports here, not hanging around whatsoever as he runs in the toe of Lee Horne. And well, right now, Smith with the pole time for issue of a 45.065. It's still wet conditions out there. Mitchell West is on dries, but it's not working out. In fact, he's in the pit lane right now. And well, as the drivers make the way on through the final quarter, what is going to be the difference here as the clock strikes 15 minutes. Alan McCain and Michael Leash just squeezed on through. They will be your last runners, but coming to the line, and Sam Smith right now, he's got purple in the middle sector. He's not been able to improve overall. Lee Horne moves up to P3, and well, a lovely lap there from Horne of 45.308. Sam Bradley has gone to P13 then with all the shuffling going on, but what can Matt Emmons do in response? That is the big question mark right now. Matthew Sheridan goes P23 and a 46.005 off camera, and keeping in mind wherever Emmons qualifies versus Bradley, this could have huge implications in the AM Championship over the course of today going into the season finale, and Emmons will want to be away from West, who'll be starting right behind him if it was to stay as it currently is with the two of them P32, P33 respectively. We've got plenty of drivers out there still putting times in. And some surprises, Ben Altrier down in P27 currently, and well, not where he wants to be, that's a certainty, as Emmons makes way through. Tom Davidson snatches pole position overall, provisionally a 45.0 flat. Emmons cross line P28 is as far as he'll go. It's an improvement, but it's not enough. Wojciech Swirydowicz is still heading around. Remember, he and McCluskey were some of the last drivers to come across line before the 15-minute clock struck, and here they come. What are they going to do? McCluskey's P70 improves to P6, Swirydowicz stays P3, but improves his overall time. Could we be seeing a prime front row lockout here? Well, it's looking more and more likely as Duncan Rise comes across line for Goldwyn Motorsport, and as he does so, what's it going to be here for the Goldwyn Motorsport driver? It is going to be as high as P8, 45.594, and well, meanwhile, Andy Fox comes to the line in the throwback livery there to what was a Rapid Fit, the Ford Mondeos of the Super Touring era, and well, it's a rapid lap from Andy Fox, a 45.074 puts him P3. It's not enough for the front row, but it's good enough to put him right up there, and those are going to be some big points on hand. And with that, that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolutely historical session, because for the first time in a first race of the day in the NXTCC, we're going to have an all-prime front row and an all-prime top three. Tom Davidson is your prime and overall pole sitter for the Sim Racing Collective, and Sam Smith will join him on the front row, 6.5 hundredths down, with Andy Fox just behind. Wojciech Swirydowicz is your fastest pro out there, P4, and well, definitely he'll be feeling the confidence flying on through. And Sam Bradley will start P14 as your AM pole sitter, 14 places ahead of any other AM driver, the first of which being Matt Emmons. But it has been a qualifying session of mixed fortunes for so many. And John Higgins there, John Higgins Jr. starting at P13, a good place for him to start. But let's talk about starting orders then, as our drivers all make the way into the pit lane, because it is time to head to the grid for race number 1. And this is how they'll line up for our first race of the day. Tom Davison will start on pole position for the Sim Racing Collective, joined on the front row by Sam Smith for iRacing Esports. Behind them, Andy Fox for Doble Motorsport and what will be Wojciech Swirydowicz for Semper Racing. Lee Horne starts P5 for Sam Case for NXTGEN ahead of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing. It's Benjamin McCluskey who starts P7 for NXTGEN Ping ahead of teammate Jamie Doble. Your top 10 is completed by Duncan Rise for Doble Motorsport and Matthew Addy for Sam Case for NXTGEN. Behind them, on the 6th row of the grid, it's Alan McCain for iRacing Esports and Michael Lees for JW Motorsport. We then do have on row number 7 the combination pair of John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective and Sam Bradley, your AM pole sitter for SO and NXTGEN Gold. Harney Bicknell starts off your 8th row of the grid ahead of Patrick Falconer, with Mikey Doble and Toby Prost on the 9th row of the grid and Adam Delmont and Piotr Jegowski completing your top 20. Jonathan Roderick starts P21 ahead of what is Luke Jones, with Matthew Shepperton and Andrew Pike on row number 12. And on row 13 it will be Ben Gregory and Mark Sykes ahead of Ben Altrier and Matt Emmons. And then your top 30 is completed by Ian Manners and Sam Van Olst. Then on row number 16, it's Daniel Fritz and Russell Fowler, with Jake Pitt and Mark Ken behind them on row number 17. And then we'll have Mitchell West and James Mansfield started together on the 18th row of the grid, with row number 19 falling to Jonathan Collins, who starts P37, and Slamir Javosky, who starts P38. Roy Plummer and Marcel Fritsch will complete your top 40. And on the final, the penultimate row of the grid, I should say, is Gabriel Yilmaz and Craig Tillotson. And not to get a lap in and qualifying, Costa Chatscontinental and Mike Doble will complete your starting order of 44 cars. Well, it's a quick rundown of the grid order, ladies and gentlemen. A bit faster than what we normally do for the simple reason we're not going to be holding our drivers in position. We're going to be starting after a 2-minute countdown on the grid, and when that countdown is about to be completed. But we have got a thriller to start us off today. Tom Davidson on the left, Sam Smith on the right. The lights are going on, and without further ado, for the first time today, it's 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our first race of the day as everyone's trying to find the grip levels out there, and it looks like Andy Fox launching into lead as Tom Davidson struggles, and as they roar the way round, it's almost going to be free wide into the opening corner, and will Sam Smith battling hard with Wojciech Swirydowicz. Oh goodness me, and Andy Fox rejoins it off the exit curb, but is biffed wide onto the gravel as they make the way up into Druids, and that was contact, I think, between Swirydowicz and Fox, albeit my eyes may have deceived me there, and as they all make the way through, it's the long concertina effect car out onto the gravel there in the rear of the picture. That, I believe, is the Whiskey Runners racing car of Daniel Fritz, and Jamie Dory also been sent round. But out of our 44 starters, 42 of them have survived the opening couple of corners, and things are now settling down on a circuit which is definitely very, very wet out there, but it is drying and no more rain falling. But as they make the way onwards towards what will be Pilgrim's Drop, Wojciech Swirydowicz is your leader with Sam Smith right behind him as they roar their way on down and up towards Hawthorne's corner. Further back, meanwhile, Mikey Doble battling here with Andy Fox, and Fox being demoted down the order. Mikey Doble making multiple places since this race start. The Doble Sim Racing driver had a difficult qualifying session, but he'll feel confident that he can pick up the pieces here rather rapidly in this 11-lap race. He makes his way onwards towards Westfield Bend, and as he does so, still side by side with Fox, but in the end Fox gets ahead and Doble backs out of it. But coming on down in towards Sheen and Dingledale, all behind is Toby Prosser, and keep your eyes out for him. The fact he normally thrives in these changing conditions. It didn't quite work out in qualifying this time for the Aztec Racing driver, but I suspect he'll still have an ace or two up his sleeve as they come down through Stirlings and up towards Clearways. But speaking of our leaders, as they make their way towards Clearways, Swirydowicz under major pressure from Sam Smith come the end of lap 1. We've still got another 10 laps to go, but as they roar their way round in a drying circuit, a gradually drying one, will everybody starting on the wet tyre would say. After 1 lap of race, it is Wojciech Swirydowicz who leads ahead of Sam Smith P2. But here comes Smith looking up the inside, the Pro-Am leader trying to battle with the leading Pro driver, can't quite find it. Isaac Doble stays P3, Tom Davidson's dropped to P4, Lee Horne P5, Benjamin McCluskey P6, Duncan Rice P7, and then we do have what is none other than Alan McCain P8, John Higgins Jr. P9, and Michael Lee's completion top 10. Oh, goodness me, and something's gone very wrong there. Wojciech Swirydowicz, he's been turned around on what is the second corner at Druids, and as he tries to get turned around on a very wet and slippery amount of gravel, that car is going to take an eternity to turn back the right way, and we'll get a replay of what happened there shortly, as meanwhile Sam Smith finds itself in a side-by-side tussle with none other than Lee Horne, but it's getting very testy out there, and as we said, it's not over in terms of the championships until the checkered flag falls, and will anything can happen before it is all over. And speaking of the moves being made, anything can happen. Alan McCain and Duncan Ryan's here, battling side by side as the Doble Motorcycles driver defends on the inside, McCain on the outside, too wide they go into the corner, but how will they emerge from it? Still too wide, neither driver wants to back out, and we'll credit where it's due there to both of them finding grip on different lines. And McCain in the end running very wide. They're coming out of Westfield. That is going to put him wide, and that is going to give Rise the opportunity to move up into P6. Lovely battle in there, and the Doble Motorcycles driver showing absolute pure commitment to move into 6th place. As they come down in towards Sterling's, Sam Bradley's at the back of this pack right now in P14, and he's going to be reveling the fact he's leading the AM class by the best part of 15 places over Mitchell West, and right now everything is coming together very nicely. But speaking of things not coming together, let's get a replay of what happened to Wojciech Swirydowicz. And this was at the start of that, breaking it into Druids, side by side with Sam Smith, and a bit of netcode contact by the looks of things. And then got the two hitched together, and Swirydowicz turned around the front of Sam Smith, and with that camera angle there, make it look as though there's a bit of breathing room between them, but it could be deceptive. But Swirydowicz coming off the worst of the two. Meanwhile, we've also had an incident for Matt Emmons at the start of the race. He was, of course, your championship leader in the AM class going into today. Oh, goodness me, and that was contact with a car that was stricken early on. And, well, what exactly happened to set off? We've got a few replays to have from lap number 1. Emmons being collected there, and we have another look back at lap number 1, and in particular what happened to Andy Fox at the start. Bit too much speed in towards Paddock Hill Bend, contact with Sam Smith, lost the rear of the car on the descent with the wet patch of the major puddle, and that's what happened to Andy Fox initially, and then battling on the outside, further contact with Matthew Addy, and well, Addy there being squeezed between them was Fox and McCluskey, and well, Fox getting away with McCluskey, well, in fact that was Jamie Dory, I should say, being turned all the way round. And then we had an incident for Daniel Fritz at the back of that pack, and what exactly happened to the Whiskey Runners racing driver under braking in a bit of a contact there with Mark Kent, and well, I don't think Kent had anywhere to go other than hold his line, and Fritz being turned across. A very misfortunate start to the race. And then we also had an incident for Toby Prosser, and well, this was the Aztec Racing driver as he came on down the round. Oh, goodness me, side-by-side contact there with Matthew Addy, and Prosser being escorted off the road for a brief moment, rejoined, and did Matthew Addy then go around? And was that? Yes, it did. We saw it in the rear of the pitch there for a brief moment, and that was with Jonathan Rodriguez, and then that subsequently collected Matt Emmons as Rodriguez came back onto the road surface. We also saw one of what the Audi RS3s be collected. Couldn't quite tell you who that was, given the fact they're running a different livery from today. But we return to the race now, and as we do, the rain is falling again here at Brands Hatch. Well, we thought it was going away. It's not to be. We look away for a brief moment. We go on to lap number 4, and now it's absolutely chucking it down out there. So we get a quick recap of the incidents in the opening couple of laps, and Wojciech Doble still ahead of Tom Davidson as it stands, albeit I think there's been a bit of an exchange between the two of them over the last couple of laps. In fact, that exchange happened on lap number 1, but Wojciech Doble fending off what is the hunt here from Tom Davidson, but Davidson coming back in him immediately, and the Sim Racing Collective driver seems to be very much in his comfort zone here as they head in towards 30s in these wet conditions. Well, it's a shame he wasn't on the grid last week, so I would imagine that Davidson would have given all the prams a run for his money, if not plenty more, and well, their elbows out between them, and Wojciech Doble trying to squeeze Davidson off the inside line. But Davidson's here to stay as they make the way down through Pilgrim's Drop and in towards Hawthorns. And can Davidson get this move done through the right-hander at turn number 5? Yes, he can. And Tom Davidson takes the lead for the Sim Racing Collective. Wojciech Doble's not done yet. He looks to cut back, but it's not going to be enough as they head into Westfield. Meanwhile, further down the order, we've got Battles of Plenty. Jonathan Collins here running the original Whiskey Runners racing livery. That goes all the way back to season 2. And as he heads up the rise, oh, goodness me, almost losing it there under braking into Hawthorns. And that is how much water is coming down. There's standing water patches forming, and the Whiskey Runners racing driver caught up behind Jamie Dory, who's missed a front bumper after that turn 1 lap 1 instant. Andy Fox just behind them. And Collins right now P3 in the AM class. We've got it all to do here to try and chase down Mitchell West, and we are one finish ahead of West in order to help out Daniel Fritz. But Sam Bradley up in P12 is just thriving meanwhile whilst all this is playing out, and it is pandemonium in the AM Championship in this race. And well, at the back of the group, there's Mark Kent looking to make some progress here for Full Tilby Motorsport as he defends, well, in fact he attacks I should say, versus Roy Plummer just in front of them. We saw a defense of Marcel Fritz versus Craig Tillerson, but Kent's going to get the run here on Plummer. He's going to take 2 balls to the grass briefly in order to get alongside Plummer. We'll give him the space, and Ken dives the inside here into clear ways. It should be a setup and done move, and it is indeed as they make the way towards the end of lap number 4. But as they come out to the right-hander and onto the start-finish straight they go, will mean, well, a bit further up the road, it's an Aztec racing Audi RS3 of Jay Pitt that's under pressure from Mark Sykes. As we look back through the battle of the two Audis, James Mansfield not too far behind in turn as they come into the braking zone there, where you can see how close they are, and Sykes thinking about a lunge, but in the end not going to do so, given the fact he could upset the car. James Mansfield running the white and blue liveried Audi RS3 a bit further behind. I believe that's a tribute to Restart Racing, unless I'm mistaken, but they make the way up the rise and through turn number 4. No change at the moment between Pitt and Sykes, but meanwhile between Lease and Smansfield, well, Michael Lease has found his way through there coming out of Surtees Bend, and as they make the way on down in towards what will be Hawthorne's, well, right now Michael Lease doing everything in his power for JW Motorsport to just simply hold on and break away, given the fact that car's had a few bumps and scrapes, and you can see the whole side, the left-hand side paint has practically been shorn off of it, and well, Lease has definitely had his elbows out at certain points over the course of the racing tonight, but he comes on down through Westfield Bend. This is just race number 1 of 3 today here at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. The rain is started to slow down a little bit. The sun's coming out here. Well, goodness me, I don't think the weather can make up its mind what season it is. It is true British weather. Indeed, we are in the autumn of the United Kingdom, and this is exactly the way it would be in real life as they make the way onwards now towards what will be clear ways, and as they do, well, plenty of battling playing out, including Costa Chatscontinentu, who's under pressure here from Marcel Fridge. And the 287 Motorsport driver will just trying to make himself as wide as possible in this fight for the 4th place spot in the AM class. And we can see Fritz trying to cut back to the outside here, but the Brit of the Chatscontinentu defending hard in the middle of the road, making himself as wide as possible. Kent's going to get up the inside here at Fridge, and that costs Marcel Fridge not just 1 but 2 places. And Chatscontinentu absolutely obstinate here in terms of just not letting anyone go. He's racing fairly, to be fair, and it's a fantastic little scrap for P34. It may not sound like much overall, but to them it's worth huge points to the AM Championship as they come on down through Paddock Hill Bend, and Kent here looking for the cut back, albeit can't quite get the traction of a Paddock Hill Bend. Chatscontinentu struggling there on corner exit, so the two right now both having their own issues, but they stay line astern formation as they come through Druids. We've got to pause the fault there, because meanwhile at the front of the field, Isaac Doble back up the inside of Davidson for the overall lead. Ahead of the prime driver is number 65 for Doble Sim Racing, and Sam Smith has caught up to the back of this as they now make their way in towards Westfield. Everywhere you look, there's battles to be seen, and Isaac Doble right now having to try and hold on here and refuse to budge versus the 2 primes behind him. Speaking of budging, Sam Smith right now trying to get Davidson to budge as we ride on board here with the number 27, but as he comes in towards Sterling's Bend, he's going to be close, but he's not going to be close enough to consider a pass. As they power their way up now towards clearways once more. We're going on to lap number 7. It's been a tremendous first half of this race, and with the rain coming back to haunt everyone, well, the circuit's pretty much going back to the conditions we saw in qualifying, albeit it's getting worse, not better. And right now in the battle for the lead, you can see that Davidson gets the better run out of clearways. He looks the outside and tucks back into the toe behind Isaac Doble, literally trying to come left, right and centre as Smith tries to edge his way out the inside. He goes for it here, but gets compressed to the apex curve, knowing the 2 does not go to 1. He carries a bit too much speed, the water sends him out wide, but Smith somehow manages to retard the car in time, and as he makes his way through Druids, right now absolutely on the ragged edge of adhesion here on the top 3, I can tell you that, as they make the way down to Graham Hill Bend, and at any moment I think we could be seeing a change for the lead of this race as Benjamin McCluskey and Lee Horne are inching closer, and as they charge their way onwards towards the left-hander here of Surtees. Smith close, but he just doesn't have enough confidence to make the move. Meanwhile, speaking of making moves, Toby Prosser up the inside of Adam Delmont here into Surtees Bend. Delmont's going to try and hold the outside on the wet tyre, both on the wet of course, and as they make the way on around and down now towards what will be Pilgrim's Drop, with still Prosser behind. In the end, Delmont gets the better run, and that Honda is looking lightning quick around here. It must be set the Brands Hatch circuit. Oh, goodness me, and that is Alan McCain. McCain has snapped steering under brake in there. The water catches out the Hyundai Elantra driver in the iRacing Esports machine, and the 212 finds its way onto the gravel. He's not beached, but that could have been a huge disaster. It's going to cost him dear as we see off the road goes Luke Jones. They're all struggling out there, but the prime driver of Alan McCain falls all the way from being inside the top 10 to practically the bottom end of the top 30. It's heartbreak for the 212, even more so further behind as Mitchell West makes a bit of an excursion out wide there, and behind them Jonathan Collins now fighting with what is a wingless, none other than, I believe, the car of Sam Van Ols. It's missing a rear wing, and that Audi RS3 will be absolutely slippery as there's been an off track for Tom Davidson, and suddenly he's been towed to the pits from what I'm hearing in my ear. Well, something's happened to the Sim Racing Collective drivers batting for the lead. We'll try and find out what's happened there shortly, but Collins side by side, oh, it's all gone wrong for Sam Van Ols, who looks to the inside of the Sterlings and makes contact with Collins. Collins carries on his merry way, but Van Ols' race goes from good to bad to worse. And well, without further ado, we get a replay of what happened to Tom Davidson. And this was in the battle between himself and Sam Smith for P2. They were fighting hard. Oh, goodness, and the car snapping under brake into the tyre barrier. Now, that looked so it was of his own volition, albeit I'm not sure there was perhaps a bit of a netco contact there between himself and Smith, but Smith looked to be clear behind, unless our camera does deceive us. But a nightmare for Tom Davidson, and that tow to the pit is going to put him out of contention in this race, surely. And it means now that Isaac Doble has bought himself a 1.7 second advantage with the Brands fighting so hard. Can he run away with this, given he has been struggling in these wet conditions? Meanwhile, Sam Smith behind is already closing a 10th over the course of the middle sector this lap so far, and he's closing very quickly indeed. It could not be over yet for Isaac Doble. He may have to do even more defensive driving. But speaking of defence here, and Ben Altrier right now has got to figure out what's the better play here. Is it to try and keep Matthew Sheraton behind, or is it to let him go and not get in trouble like he almost does so there, coming through Hawthorns? Because Ben Altrier, of course, your Prime Championship leader, he's down to P6 of the Prime class, but given his main rivals right now are behind him in the Prime class, is it not better just to take the points and run with it into race number 2? Will the inner racing driver winning will simply say, it's not good enough, I want to finish higher? But Altrier surely got to have the championship picture in his mind, and knowing that the points have got to be brought home, as while Sheraton is an outside contender, he's got to finish a lot higher in order to really take the fight to Altrier at this point in the championship. But as they head in towards Clearways, you can see Sheraton looking around the outside. He knows he's got to make progress here. He can't just sit on his laurels. There's a bit of a tap between Falcon and Sheraton, but they both survive it. They drag race their way up towards turn number 1, going on to lap number 9. But which of the two here is going to be leading that battle for P12 through Paddock Hill Bend? Will Sheraton here feel as though he's got the overspeed? He's got the more natural line on the outside, but Falcon has the inside. He has the defense set up, and Sheraton made to fall back there as they head up towards Druid's Corner. But from them, we've got more battling occurring further down. Matthew Addy finds himself, after a dismal start to this race, finds himself right on the tail end now of the long line of AMPAC cars, and as they make the way on through there, well, we can definitely see another Renault throwback livery, albeit an Audi of Gabriel Yilmaz for Aztec Racing, and he finds himself square in the middle of all the battling as Russell Fowler into the pit lane after a nasty moment, as I understand it. Gabriel Yilmaz meanwhile dives up the inside, and as he makes his way down through the right hand of Paddock Hill Bend, takes the place of a Craig Tillerson, who's going to have the door open into Marcel Fridge, and Fridge is also going to gain another place in the AM class battle. That's going to move him up to P5 surely. Tillerson there struggling with major damage to the car, just trying to get it home, and Matthew Addy will now try and make his way past the AM driver, will the Pro-Am. It won't change the points they pick up, albeit Addy gets very close to the rear there of what's Marcel Fridge, but gets it stopped in time. They're all snaking and sliding about all over the place, and well, we've still got 2.5 laps to go for these guys. Meanwhile, back up the road, Wojciech Swirydowicz, who of course involved in that early instant in the race, he's back up to P26. There's no point for outside the top 15 for our pro drivers in terms of overall finishing positions, and right now the Semper Racing driver will find that championship crown might be postponed for a little bit longer until race number 2. But he's going to have it all to do with Mitchell West right behind him. But Mitchell West, P2 in the AM class here, will know that with Sam Bradley all the way up in P11, West has just got to keep his head down and not make any mistakes all the way to the finish. But make no mistake here, when we look back towards the very front, we're still 2 laps from the finish, and right now Isaac Doble is only 6 tenths, if that, ahead of Sam Smith. Smith has closed the gap by a second over the previous lap. Smith is flying right now as they come on down from Druids in towards Graham Hill Bend, and Isaac Doble just does not feel comfortable. Keep in mind as well, he is running a significant amount of success ballast in that Honda, but the point being here that for Doble, the Doble Sim Racing opportunity of a victory, it could be going away, albeit he'll make that car as wide as possible. We saw that in his battle with Tom Davidson and Sam Smith earlier on, but now it's 1-on-1 with Benjamin McCluskey 1.5 seconds behind and still not close up. You can see Smith there taking a little bit of a peek, coming out of third. He's trying to get into Isaac Doble's head already by trying to make him think he's going to get the better run of what was an earlier apex. As they come in towards Hawthorne's, and Smith here decides to take the more natural, open, outside to inside of racing line. It gives him a lot of momentum. That's him within 2 attempts, but is it enough to look up the inside into Westfield? No, it's not. And therefore he has to relent, but gets the better run, a tap through of Isaac Doble's car. Isaac Doble really struggling in these medium speed apex. He just can't seem to find the grip that his rivals do, particularly Smith does. But again, see there, Smith gets so close, taps the rear, and it almost comes back to haunt him. And again, as they make the way through Sterling's, he couldn't be running closer, but Isaac Doble sticking to his guns right now and just simply taking it corner after corner, and knowing that Smith can get as close as he wants, but he's still got to find a way past, and he's got to do it legitimately so. As they head into clearways, and Smith right now, he would reach out and touch that rear wing if he got any closer, but as they pound their way onto the final lap here, fantastic race so far to echo the sentiment of Handsome Stu, and it's going to come down to a last lap as they head in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Isaac Doble defends. Sam Smith, your prime leader, looking for overall victory here to add his name to that growing list of prime winners in terms of overall winners. But as they head into Druids, no way through so far. Meanwhile, a bit further, Adam Delmont up the inside of Mikey Doble, who's had a poor run out of Paddock Hill Bend. Onto the brakes he goes, and Adam Delmont's not going to waste any seconds in trying to make moves here. Lovely move, and gets it done for P5 as he comes down and defends immediately into Great Hill Bend with Toby Pross and Duncan Razor looking to take some pot shots, potentially at the double sim race at 88. But as they head onwards towards what will be at the next corner, Duncan Razor having to look for the move on the inside here of Prosser. Prosser tried to seal the door. There was traffic in the forward James Spencer's but in the end they negotiate it from 3 to 2 wide, and Razor there just can't find the traction of corner exit. But brilliant awareness of all 3 drives to avoid that becoming a disaster. And as they head on down towards Hawthorne's, right now it could not be closer between them all. Everybody's absolutely giving it everything they've got here. This is just race 1 of the day, and Mikey Doble still looking for a move. But meanwhile, speaking of looking for moves to be made, Isaac Doble here is looking to just hold on for a little bit longer as they cover down of through Dingledale and Sheen. And as they make the way through turn 7, the rain continues to fall here. The circuit refuses to give grip, it refuses to give ground, and as they come through Sterling's Bend, look at that massive puddle on the inside. Nobody wants to be there, and that means there's only one place to go for a move, and Smith tries to get the run out of what's Sterling's. It's a last-ditch gasp now in towards Clearways with McCluskey right there behind. Into the right-hander they go, and Isaac Doble just looks to find the traction out of the final corner. The checkered flag gets ready to wave, and as it does so, Isaac Doble's done it. He holds on for Doble Sim Racing to take victory in race 1 ahead of prime winner Sam Smith P2 for iRacing Sports, Benjamin McCluskey P3 for NXTGEN Pink. Lee Horne comes home P4 ahead of Mikey Doble with Adam Delmont, Tony Prosser, Doug Race through to P8, Andrew Pikes P9, John Higgins Jr. P10, and then it will be Matthew Sheraton ahead of Sam Bradley, who brings home a calm, cool and collected AM-class win P12. A brilliant drive there from Sam Bradley. More drivers to come on through still, including all the way down in P24, Slavomir Jalvosky for Semper 18, who fends off teammate Wojciech Swirydowicz, and Mitchell Westerline. Mitchell West second place in the AM-class there, P26. We've also got coming on through still a battle here between Gabriel Yilmaz and Jonathan Collins for the final podium position in the AM-class, as Yilmaz they're getting a little bit of love tap from Jonathan Collins as the bumper almost falls off Collins' car. It's come loose. Oh, goodness me! And Yilmaz in the end with a further little bit of power oversteer there. I'm not sure if that was aided. The two of them getting their elbows out, and it's going to be Collins who in the end does take P3, but the two of them come together. It's a disaster over the line. Marcel Fritsch as well comes on through, gets collective and takes P5 in the M-Class P34. And well, I think they're the two of them definitely getting those elbows out all the way to the line. But it's a dramatic end to the race, ladies and gentlemen. And well, in the end, James Vasquez a lap down P40. We still do have one finish on the lead lap in a wounded car, and it is going to be Craig Tillotson. It'll be your last lead lap finisher at a car that definitely has seen its fair share of bumps and scrapes, but still he's going to limp it home for Verona Motorsport and take P9 in the AM class here and get some all-important points. There's Craig Tillotson to his checkered flag, P39 for the Verona team. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a first race of the day. And let me just emphasise, that is race 1 of today at Brands Hatch, not race 3, not race 2, race 1, and Isaac Doble putting in a lion's drive indeed to hold off Sam Smith all the way to the finish. as they come into the pit lane, and well, those wet conditions just going from drying to increasingly slippery over the course of the race. Credit where it's due to Sam Smith for P2 overall and the Pro-Am win, and well, as they all make the way on down the pit lane, you can see there just how difficult it is even to break for the pit lane limiter line, and where one has to be cautious of that. Nobody wants to pick up a post-race penalty from the iRacing system, and Sam Bradley, your AM winner there, deserved AM winner, and well, as we do look to a couple order call down, Andy Fox, who did so well in qualifying, it all unfolded on the open lap, recovered well to P28, but well, no, it's not how he wanted to start off his day today, and well, he'll be looking in the Just Rapid machine for Doble Motorcycles to make a rapid rise for the ranks, much like Matthew Addy behind him when they go into race number 2. But as it continues to rain, indeed, it's a bit stormy here as well. We take a look to the scenic view, and let's take you through those race results subject to any scheduled inquiries, and here they are. So after a very, very challenging race number 1 for round 9 of the NXTCC Season 7 as brought to you on iRacing and powered by Doble Motorcycles, Isaac Doble bring home the overall win for Doble Sim Racing, the pro driver just ahead of the prime winner, P2 overall, Sam Smith for iRace Esports. It was a 10th between them, and a further 7 tenths to Benjamin McCluskey, who finished P3 for NXTGEN Ping, ahead of Lee Horne for Sam Case for NXTGEN after their great battle, whereas McCluskey who gained the upper hand and was able to break away. Conversely, Lee Horne felt safe in the end and finished a second clear of Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing, who had to fend off the pressure and the challenge from Adam Delmont for SL NXTGEN Gold, as well as Toby Prosser for Aztec Racing and Goldwyn Motorsports Duncan Moraes, and credit and congratulations to Toby Prosser and Duncan Moraes for completing the prime podium of Smith, Prosser and Moraes. Behind the South African driver, Andrew Pite there for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of teammate and returnee to the grid of John Higgins Jr. And then we do see Matthew Cheverton at P11 there for Aztec Racing, ahead of Sam Bradley, your AM winner. And well, the SL NXTGEN Gold driver had an absolutely smooth run to the finish, albeit made some places up as well, gained 2 places overall, and really pushing for some overall points as well as what is AM Championship points. Ben Trier, P13 for Full Tilt Motorsport, despite a difficult qualifying session, doing well to finish P13 and gain multiple places over the course of the race distance, and that could be important in the Prime Championship going into the season finale. Patrick Falconer just behind him, P14 for JW Motorsport, head of teammates Harley Bicknell, who round off the overall top 15, and Luke Jones was P16. Ben Gregory, P17, ahead of Ian Manners, with your top 20 being rounded off by Michael Lees and Jay Pitt. Behind the Welshman, it was Mark Sykes in the 666 P21, Jeremy Dory P22 recovering after what was that spin on lap number 1, and then Alan McCain, Slomir Javosky and Wojciech Swirydowicz completing a top 25, and well, the Semper Racing pair both having the misfortune in this race. Mitchell West, your second place finisher in the AM class, Mitch West Performance, P26, head of Piotr Jigoslewski and Andy Fox, and then completing the top 30, it was none other Sam Van Olst and Jonathan Robrex for the Valkyrie Excite driver, been involved in that early instant coming out of Graham Hill Bend, and will definitely find himself in the midst of the domino effect, and well, I think he'll be hoping for a much happier race number 2. Matthew Addy, P31, collected, of course, in the domino effect incident early on for Sam Case for NXTGEN. And then we saw Jonathan Collins, P32, there, round off the AM podium of Bradley, West and himself for Whiskey Runners Racing, ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz, Marcel Fritsch P34, Daniel Fritz P35, the Whiskey Runners Racing driver just not having luck on his side so far today. And then to complete your top 40, it was none other than Russell Fowler, Matt Emmons, Roy Plummer, Craig Tillerson, who was your last lead lap finisher, P39 for Verano Motorsport, and a lap down at James Mazesgal. Finishing at 5 laps down in the end, Tom Davidson with that misfortunate retirement after what was a brilliant drive from the Sim Racing Collective drive. Heartbreak for the team in the 42. Mark Kent as well, 5 laps down, and Costa Chatscon-Nancy 5 laps down for 287 Motorsport, but they will all be classified as finishers as they did complete over half the race distance. And the only driver unfortunate not to get on the grid due to technical issues with the car, Mike Doble there, and the number 11 in the end, staying in the pits, and the Doble Sim Racing car we hope to see out of the grid for race number 2. So 44 starters, and in the end, what was the best part there? 43 finishers, 39 of which on the lead lap. And that is just race number 1, done and dusted, ladies and gentlemen. But with the weather continuing to be absolutely inclement here in the Garden of England at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit, I suspect race number 2 is going to be just as challenging. And we'll be back for the build-up to that and plenty more in about 7 to 8 minutes' time. But just as we do step away, here's a quick word from our title sponsor for this season, Doble Motorcycles. We will see you shortly, ladies and gentlemen. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you'll receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycle store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, after an absolutely sensational race number one with changeable conditions that were so unpredictable. Well, goodness me, it led to some fast and furious race action, no doubt about it. We are only minutes away from race number two, and it looks as though the wet weather is set to continue here at a very cloudy and rather miserable Brands Hatch circuit. Albeit miserable for the weather only, because I can tell you one thing, the race has put a smile on many a face, whether it be you guys and girls as spectators, alternatively even our drivers up and down the grid. And we'll speak to one driver who definitely must be having a big smile on his face right now. It's none other than Sam Smith for iRacing Esports in that absolutely scintillating battle to take what was a P2 overall and go all in for what was the prospect of an overall win, albeit not quite able to get it. But I tell you what, enough talking about it from our perspective. Let's try and get a word from the man himself and see whether we can get a patch through to him in the car. We'll give us a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen. We may just be able to do that as we patch through to him. Well, if we try and get a word with Sam Smith. Sam, have you got a moment?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Sam,
My voice isn't great though, so.
No problem. I mean, what a race number one. That had everything. A fantastic battle between yourself and Tom Davidson for the prime win. Unfortunately, of course, ended up with Davidson in the barrier, but for yourself to carry on. And then you chased down the overall win off of Wojciech Doble. Couldn't quite get it, but still, a P2 overall. Prime win as well. You couldn't ask for too much more, surely.
No, I was a little bit disappointed though in some respect, because during qualifying I got caught out by Gabriel Ilmaz on the about my fifth lap. I was up half a second on my time, so I was hoping for that pole, and I might have then got away off the line and been able to get away. But no, it was a really pleasurable race, really good fun. Just couldn't get past Isaac right at the end.
Oh, you couldn't quite get past it at that time, but to be fair, going into this second race, you're going to have another chance to, albeit you're going to have a very heavy car now going into race number two. How are you feeling for it?
Yeah, I'm out testing it right as we speak. And to be fair, it doesn't feel too bad, so hoping that it's not going to hinder me too much. Well, he's going to have weight as well, obviously.
Oh, very true. Well, with that, Sam, we'll leave you to the testing with a couple of minutes to go. Good luck for race two, and we'll see you at the checker flag.
Lovely, thank you very much.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Sam Smith, and what a driver. As he quickly tests out what the weight does to the car and how it feels. Well, the sun's out there, but I can tell you one thing, it may be shining currently, but I get the feeling that could all be a little bit of a teaser of perhaps a circuit that is to dry. But then again, we said that in race number one, and look what happened. Well, we've heard from one side of the story, and well, can we get a quick word with the man at the other side of the story? None other than Wojciech Doble. I believe he's currently in the pit lane. Well, we'll have to see if we can get a word from him a bit later. I don't think we'll quite get the word at the moment. But in terms of other drivers to get a word from with a minute to go, well, in fact, I think what we might be able to do is get a quick word with Sam Bradley if we can get a patch through to his car. Indeed, we can, ladies and gentlemen, get a word with Sam Bradley. And we will just have a quick chat to him. And here we go, as we do say hello to Sam Bradley whilst he's in the car. Sam, you got time for a 30-second word?
Yes, mate, yes.
So just a quick one, Sam. A very solid race number one. Looked completely in control out there, and a P12 overall to boot. You must be very happy.
I think the range really evened everything out, to be fair. Obviously, all these boys have got much more experience than what I've got in the drive, so now that the range came, I can finally get involved with the people at the top. But now that I've said that, I might just end up in the barrier, so who knows.
Well, hopefully you won't end up in the barrier from race number two, but it's looking quite slippery out there. Can we expect more of the same from you?
If it stays wet, I'm feeling confident. If it stays wet, I think I can try replicate my first finish.
Well, that's absolutely fair. We wish you the best luck for race two, and we'll see you out of the circuit.
Thank you very much, mate. Have a good one.
So having a quick word there with Sam Bradley, ladies and gentlemen, but just in time as well, because the checker flag comes out on what is the warm-up session. It is time for race number two, and how is it going to all play out? Well, let's find out. So the drivers make the way onto the grid. This is how they'll line up for our second race of the day. It is Wojciech Doble who returns to pole position for Doble Sim Racing ahead of Sam Smith, the prime pole sitter for iRacing Esports. Benjamin McCluskey starts P3 for NXTGEN Pink ahead of Horne for Sam Case for NXTGEN. Then we have Mikey Doble for Doble Sim Racing starting P5, climbing to there from starting outside the top 10 in race 1, and he is joined on the third row by Adam Delmont for SL with NXTGEN Gold. Toby Prosser lines up P7 for Aztec Racing ahead of Duncan at Moraes for Goldwyn Motorsport. And your top 10's rounded out by Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective and John Higgins Jr. for what is his team as well. And then have Matthew Sheraton starting P11 at best of the rest ahead of Ampole sitter Sam Bradley, where behind them we will then see what is Ben Trier and Patrick Falconer. And then Harley Bicknell and Luke Jones line up on row number 8 with Ben Gregory and Ian Manners on row 9, and your top 20 is completed by Michael Lees and Jake Pitts. We're going to have Mark Sykes and Jamie Dory behind them, but we have to stop the grid run, ladies and gentlemen, because the lights are going on. It's quick fire races today, and the red lights continue to trickle up. That's 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the second time today. And as our drivers get underway, Wojciech Doble this time getting a solid start. Sam Smith not quite able to get the launch. But meanwhile, Benjamin McCluskey already up into P2 as they make their way through Paddock Hill Bend. We look to the blimp camera, and as they come on through the right-hander, you can see all 3 drivers. Oh, goodness me! And Sam Smith into the barrier early on. And well, that car, I think, is going to come spinning back across the circuit, albeit we're not going to quite see it at the moment. But you can see there the drama further behind. And well, surely that is going to completely scatter the field. That is a disaster for the start, and well, that has led to a major shunt, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a safety car. And I get the feeling that was all triggered by Sam Bradley's car going wayward, albeit we didn't quite see what ended up being the result, given the fact that we were looking through the blimp camera, but we will get a replay of that very swiftly. But meanwhile, we are under race conditions for the time being, and as our drivers continue to make their way on around, and what has been a very dramatic start to this race, no doubt about it, but there's still more drama to come in the fact that right now Wojciech Doble having to go defensive versus Mikey Doble and Benjamin McCluskey. Mikey Doble wasting no time moving up to P2 already as they come on through the right hand of Hawthorns and in towards what will be Westfield Bend. You can see Adam Delmont there squared off versus Benjamin McCluskey. The Doble Sim Racing 1-2 begins to cruise its way away, and as they head in towards Dingledale, all the long line of cars here for the top 6, they're all within what is half a second or less of each other, nose to nose, and as they come down in towards Sterling's through the left-hander and onwards, they'll go onwards towards Clearways. And well, right now it's Adam Delmont and McCluskey are really fighting each other hard and just enabling the Doble brothers to break away. Now I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, a safety car is being deployed, so they're allowed to race up to the timeline, and then they must lock in their places as they were when they crossed the start finish line. McCluskey and Prosser here in a bit of a drag race. Toby Prosser does get a nose ahead, and meanwhile the front in the foreground, Wojciech Doble just fend off of Mikey Doble as the safety car is now in effect, and as they make the way on through, everyone will now gradually slow down. Prosser and McCluskey, I think, still fit as they're racing, but Prosser will take P4 as they get behind the safety car, and will we neutralise the race for a period of time. And Quinton van Wingerden there in the YouTube chat, a good call on the safety car, and indeed we do have one. This is the first time we've seen the safety car today at Brands Hatch, and I think we've ever seen the safety car at Brands Hatch in the NXTCC's history, unless I'm mistaken. But that gives us plenty of time to take a look back at what's been a very dramatic start to this race, and we've had over what is a quarter of the field into the pit lane. There you can see everybody in for repair work. A nightmare start to this race for so many drivers, but without further ado, what exactly was the nightmare? Let's take a look back at that race start. And well, we take a look from the front row of the grid, of course, and Wojciech Doble being there with Sam Smith for company. And as they got underway, a good start from what was Sam Smith versus none other than what was Wojciech Doble, but then bogged down in the second phase, and Benjamin McCluskey up the inside as they made the way through. Smith went wide, hit the puddle of water, upset the car, and in the end, he was just a passenger. And even if he'd held the brakes on as hard as he dared to dream to do so, I don't think that car would have been going anywhere other than onto the path of the cars that make it the way up through. A nightmare situation, and with all of our drivers there being caught up in it, unfortunately a nightmare for all of them. But we take a look back from further down the order, and we ride on board at this time with Goldwyn Motorsports Duncan Rise, who got underway, and as he did so, as he powered his way up to the gearbox. A good start here for the Doble Motorsport driver and catch up to Lee Horne very quickly as he made his way in towards Paddock Hill Bend. The 36 looking around the outside there of Mikey Doble. You'll see Sam Smith very shortly careen off to the left hand side. There he goes, comes back across, and well, the Doble Motorsport driver's got nowhere to go and just ends up becoming a passenger in a growing sea of cars. And here we'll see the concertina effect where everyone's come charging in. There's also been a bit of an altercation for one of the full Doble Motorsport cars further back, and well, that was unfortunately at the start of the race as far as was concerned for what was the middle pack of the field, and Sam Smith in the end with an innocent mistake, but that innocent mistake coming back to haunt so many. And well, as we do return to your live pictures, a lot of the drivers out of the pit lane, and we see here Wojciech Swirydowicz making his way through the Doble Sim Racing, and I just briefly saw a Honda Civic Type R there running what was a Honda Accord livery from the BTCC Super Touring era, albeit didn't quite see it in full, but well, a livery there that does go very strongly marked. I remember the days of sitting on my dad's lap watching the BTCC when we were massive Honda fans. Those were in the days, of course, of the likes of Gabriel Tarquini and whatnot. But I'm not going to channel my inner Murray Walker impression and talk about Tarquini putting the car on his roof or on two wheels. We haven't seen that, thankfully, today here at Brands Hatch. But going back to the present, and we do see Mark Kenton in the YouTube chat, who unfortunately is not on the grid for races 2 and 3 today. Technical issues have continued to blight him. He tried in race number 1 to get back out there, but the technical issues staying with him, and therefore it does mean he's going to be watching from the sidelines in the full Doble Motorsport garage. But we're glad to have you with us, Mark, and well, we appreciate you giving it a go. But the technical issues say no, then it's unfortunate, but that's the way it does go today. But coming on to lap number 3 then, and behind the safety car still, it is Wojciech Doble ahead of Mikey Doble. The Doble Sim Racing at 1-2 currently. Adam Delmont P3 for SO NXTGEN Gold. Toby Prosser, your prime leader for Aztec Racing P4 after just squeezing ahead of Benjamin McCluskey in the drag race to the line before the safety car came out at the end of lap number 1. McCluskey for NXTGEN Pink P5 ahead of Lee Horne for Sam Case for NXTGEN P6, and then we do see Ben Trier for full Doble Motorsport P7 ahead of Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Pink P8. Patrick Falconer P9 for JW Motorsport. A great start today for both Jamie Dory and Patrick Falconer in this race, both of them gaining multiple places. Jamie Dory, in fact, I believe up 14 places, and Patrick Falconer P9 there, and Michael Lees completes your top 10 there behind his teammate, and indeed with Hardy Bicknell and Luke Jones. It's a JW Motorsport four-way there from P9 all the way through to P30. In fact, 5 of them all together, so the whole team have made their way up the order very rapidly indeed. Fantastic to see, but meanwhile with Sam Bradley P15 your AM leader at this time, we have to pause the run through the running order because the safety car has already pulled away, and now it's to Wojciech Doble to get us underway as soon as he dares to do so, and he does. He restarts the race, and well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are back to green flag racing. He makes the reservation onto the run to clearways, and as he does so, he leaves brother Mikey right behind as we're no longer under safety car conditions, and we are back racing on lap number 4 as our drivers headed towards Paddock Hill Bend. The rain's not falling, but this circuit is definitely very wet indeed, and I can think right now that nobody's going to be gambling on a set of slicks. Indeed, you would be crazy to do so. We've still got 41 runners in this race as they make their way around. The only car that's not left the pit lane is Marcel Fridge, and I believe that car may have to be retired due to damage it's picked up. But meanwhile, further down the order with everything that's happened, Craig Tillerson is second place in the AM class right now. Indeed, the entire AM field, minus Sam Bradley, being impacted by that open lap incident through Paddock Hill Bend into Druids, and Tillerson looking to try and bring home second place here, the job for Collins. And P24 is meanwhile Alan McCain turn around, and there's further contact there. That was contact with Ben Gregory, and Gregory battling in Wojciech Swirydowicz, and Swirydowicz right now down in P28. This is a nightmare day for Swirydowicz, it must be said, in the fact that he didn't get any points in race number 1, and he might not get any points in race number 2. All he needs to do today is get some points on the board, and he will take home what will be that championship title for season 7 in the overall drivers championship. But this may have to go to the season finale, albeit it should be a formality, but anything is that here in the NXTCC. It would seem in Brands Hatch they make the way through, and Ben Gregory battling with Matthew Addy. This is the final points position in the prime class as they fight over P29 overall, but P15 car running wide there. That's Constantino, who rejoins on the outside of Hawthorne's, running wide there, drops himself out of the podium hunt for the time being as they make their way around. Gregory and Addy are not giving up. Oh, Addy in the end does have to relent, given the fact he's on that outside line, and he almost made his way to the grass. But meanwhile, there is just got stand to trying to find his way past Duncan Reyes as Andrew Party's there running what is the old liveried Honda, the Honda Accord livery tribute as he makes his way to the left-hander, and as he comes on out right now, onwards he'll go, make his way past Chat Scott stand to and onwards now to P33, and he's got plenty to do. A great drive in race number 1, gaining the most places of anybody from towards the back of the grid, and he's got it all to do in this race. As meanwhile, Sam Bradley is into the pit lane. Now, what has happened to Sam Bradley is the big question that everyone's going to be asking. He was your AM leader. Well, I believe he may have picked up damage in the open lap, and perhaps he's had to take that. In fact, he's had to repair that damage, but he makes it out of the pit lane. It drops him all the way down to P38. So this is a dismal lap for Sam Bradley, the SR1 Gold driver with some sort of damage. We haven't got any replay footage to show you what's happened, but it can't have been on the open lap. Car around there, and who's that who's gone around? That is Peter Jegoslewski, who's taken a trip. My heart skipped a beat there because I thought for a moment that was Wojciech Swirydowicz, and well, in the end, it was a Semper racing car, and the number 77 driver who's battling to be inside the top 10 of the prime class for this season. It's all gone backwards for him, and indeed things are going backwards for many a driver right now as Duncan Reyes battling with James Smaskersgale here for P30 and what is P17 in the prime class. No points available to them, but both points made progress as we saw a very liberal use of track limit Stefan Beck Gregory in the foreground of the camera shot as they made the way into Pilgrim's Drop. But they head onwards towards, oh my goodness, and that is another twisted touch shot from Collins. Collins into the barrier there into Hawthorne's. I believe that's under braking, the car snap loose, and well, that is going to be a trip to the pit lane. He's going to try and bring it home. He'll rejoin as gradually as he can, but I don't think Collins is going to make it, and Collins has had to be towed to the pit, and that is going to put him all the way to the back of the running order. And meanwhile, whilst all this has been going on, one thing we missed up towards the front is that Adam Delmont has taken P2 over Mikey Doble, and well, after Isaac Doble absolutely nailed the restart versus his brother, right now Mikey Doble finds himself falling back into the clutches the rest of the battling field, but Adam Delmont here He's on a mission, he's on a charge. Isaac was the fastest driver out there, lapping half a second faster than anybody else inside the top 10. But Adam Delmont, meanwhile, digging in now and trying to hold on to P2. And I think looking to try and settle down and find a way to go hunting after the leader. But speaking of that battle between Adam Delmont and Mikey Doble, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. And it was a lap-long battle on lap number 5. And it all began with a slight run wide from Mikey Doble out of Paddock Hill Bend and Delmont on the inside. But watch this as they made the way on around. 2 wide they went in, 2 wide they came out, and it wasn't over even into Graham Hill Bend. Delmont going around the outside, a little bit of door rub there between the two of them coming through the left-hander, but both negotiating those tricky conditions all the way on through and up towards Surtees, and it still wasn't over then. 2 wide all the way round and up towards what was a Pilgrim's Drop they'd have to go. And well, it was then in the drag race out of this corner that Adam Delmont did get ahead. But whilst that's happened, we have had a change for the lead, and this is a further replay, and this was Adam Delmont taking the lead as Isaac Doble went deep into Surtees, and that has released the lead to Adam Delmont and put Isaac Doble right back into the pack and was returned to the live racing action. And there you can see the damage done. Isaac Doble now down to P6 and a very heavy car in terms of success balance, so that is only going to confound his day even more. Toby Prosser, meanwhile, in P3. He's nipping at the heels. This is your prime leader in the yellow machine, as you can see there, the Renault Tribute car, albeit a Hyundai Elantra there, if anyone's confused. And as they make the way out to Clearways, we're right now going on to lap number 7. The top 4 are separated by practically a second. Benjamin McCluskey at the back end of that top 4, and we can see that Mikey Doble taking a bit of a wider line into Paddock Hill Bend. I think trying to open up the corner and see if he can carry a bit more speed on that more natural racing line. But Adam Delmont right now glued to the lead of this race, and he doesn't want to fall out of it anytime soon. Meanwhile, speaking of rapid drives up through the field, this is Tom Davidson looking for a move around the outside of Russell Fowler into Paddock Hill Bend. They're battling for P19 and definitely within sight of the potential reverse grid positions. And for race number 3, as they make the way out of the right-hander up towards turn 2. But Davidson right now just can't find his way through, as meanwhile, that's Peyton Higgins Jr. gets in very tasty. Behind also Wojciech Swirydowicz trying to find his way into this fight. But Swirydowicz, remember, he won't gain anything by beating these guys in terms of points. He just needs to clear them to try and get himself as high at the order for that reverse grid for race number 3 to get some points from today. But as he heads onwards towards what will be Surtees Bend, looking close there, thinking about the move, but he can't find it on Higgins Jr. Everybody right now nose to tail. There's no real opportunity, and that's the problem here when you're running this close to each other. But meanwhile, we must look back up towards the front because Adam Delmont is struggling as they come out of Westfield Bend. Delmont is being practically pushed along here by Mikey Doble with Toby Prosser behind. The concertina between our leaders is incredible, and Delmont, well, all that pace he had in the early stage of this race, it's suddenly fallen off the metaphorical cliff because this top six is separated now by 1.5 seconds. Isaac Doble right at the back of it, and they're all rubbing and bumping as they make the way towards the end of this lap. It could go any which way, and this is considering the top six incredibly close. But further down the order, we just had Gabriel Yilmaz move up into P2 in the AM class. Mitchell West is making some progress as well, and there's even more with Craig Tillerson being your AM leader at this time. But as they head on to lap number 8, well, meanwhile, we must look back to Craig Tillerson because he's never taken an AM win, and he's going to try and hold off Gabriel Yilmaz all the way to the end of this race, with Matthew Addy just in front there, and Tillerson going defensive to the inside. The Runner Motorsport driver fended off Yilmaz for now, albeit you can see Andrew Pike close behind, and Mitchell West is not too far off, and so Tillerson creating a bit of a traffic jam. The metaphorical Trudy train, if you will, of Formula 1, albeit I think Tillerson here wouldn't like that accolade to be awarded to him. He wants to earn this as hard as possible as he can, but Yilmaz is going to look around the outside as they enter Paddock Hill Bend. But is there the grip there for the Renault as they come on through? Tillerson just sticks to his guns, holds the inside line. You can see Yilmaz a little bit of contact, gliding around and a loss of control. He brings it back together, well held by Yilmaz, but here comes a move from Wojciech Smith on the inside. There's contact through Tillerson's car, but he holds on to it. It's 3 wide further behind between Marias Davidson and McCain, and as they come on down into Grand Hill Bend, Tillerson is given a lifeline, and Smith practically tries to bulldoze his way through, albeit doing it as fairly as he can. But the iRacing sports driver doesn't want to be all the way down the order. Yilmaz has got to now regroup and go again. Pike up the inside of Smith. Meanwhile, West falling behind the pro and the prime driver. As they come around through Surtees Bend, it's absolute pandemonium in the battle for the AM lead, and Tillerson has been brought to space, as now Yilmaz is under pressure here from both Pike and Smith as they come down the hill and up the rise they go in towards Hawthorne. So you can see that Pike looking around the outside with some slight connectivity issues. Well, he goes to the ether and rematerialises from it, and this is only going to frustrate Yilmaz, who just wants to be clear of them. But as they head into Westfield Bend, he can't do anything about it, and Pike's so close right now, and Yilmaz refuses to budge, and you have to wonder at this point whether it'd be worth it. Well, the answer is no, it wouldn't, because Mitchell West makes his way around. Oh, goodness me, it's contact! That's contact with Smith, who rejoins from the slight run off onto the grass, and there's a tap to rear West car. West gets very close. There's a car off there in the foreground. That is Russell Fowler, who's had a moment with the barrier and the gravel trap at Sterling's, and now as they make the way in towards Clearways once again, Tillerson under pressure, and Yilmaz is going to look around the outside, and well, as he does so, he carries all the speed, and Tillerson just does not have the opportunity to fight back, and Gabriel Yilmaz takes the AM lead for now. As they go on to where's lap 9 of 11 here, but could Tillerson come back? We'll have to wait and see. As meanwhile, Pike makes his way past Tillerson into turn 1. Bucket about you, will be looking to make his way past Yilmaz as soon as possible. Meanwhile, whilst they all fight and squabble, you can see Doug Rice looking up the inside there in the Rapid Fit machine, and that is a throwback to the car, the Ford Mondeo, of course, of Alan Menu, and also Hogarth. And as they come down towards turn 3, Tillerson being tapped on the rear by Mitchell West, and West saying hello, and now saying hello once again as he looks up the inside to Graham Hill Bend, and what was looking to be a dream come true is now starting to fade away, or will it, as Tillerson looks to defend around the outside of Surtees versus West, but West has got the inside line. Surely it's going to be enough here as they come on around. There's a rub, there's a bump between the two of them. This circuit is not offering any grip. They're having to claw for every bit of it. It's still a drag race here as they fight over P2 in the AM class, with Davidson and Smith having to queue up behind and hedge their bets behind which driver's going to be the faster of the two of them. Two wide they go in towards Hawthorne, so West on the outside gets a little bit squirrely under braking, and Tillerson will hold the position for now as he immediately defends in the middle of the road. They're going to Westwood. He knows exactly where to put the car, as behind Davidson and Smith enjoyed an absolute hammer and tongs scrap between them, with what is Alan McCain there, and McCain trying to get involved as a third player as they come up the rise in towards Dingledale, and Smith in the end running right to the edge of track limits and doing a fantastic job of keeping that car on the road. But we must come back to lead with the penultimate lap now being played out, and Adam Delmont fend off Mikey Doble for now, as behind McCluskey versus Prosser also steps up a gear, and McCluskey on the inside there into Druids, but Prosser feels like he can go outside to inside here down to Graham Hill Bend. Onto the brakes they'll go, and through the left-hander, but it's going to be McCluskey who takes P3, albeit is it over yet, because Prosser of course He really does seem to be the man who finds all the grip where no others can. And as they head onto the brakes, with Adam Delmont there of a flash of the lights, I think trying to communicate to Marcel Fritsch, look, you've got to get out of my way. I know you will, but I need you to step aside immediately. And he does exactly that, does the WS Racing Esports driver. Great awareness as they head down towards Woody's Hawthorne's Bend again. And we ride on board looking back for the rear of the race leader. And the spray coming off there, and the wipers going back and forth for Mikey Doble. Well, you can imagine that spray will be a nuisance, but it's not going to stop the 88 from trying to attack in the battle of the two leading Hondas. But they come down the hill now in towards Nickledale and Sheen. Well, there's no real way through, but note how McCluskey in the Veloster is moving a little bit closer, corner by corner. He wants an opportunity, he wants to get into the fight, but will he find a way this time? No, he won't, as the sun briefly shines, and as it does, we need to briefly look back here to the AM class lead battle, because this is big in the championship. Mitchell West, who took a podium finish in race number 1, is chased after Gabriel Yilmaz here for the AM win, and with Matt Emmons all the way down in P7 in the AM class, this could turn it on its head, depending on how race 3 goes, and it's going to be a cutback run through Westfield there for West, and he gets ahead of Yilmaz, who is all out of position, and Mitchell West takes the AM lead, and P26 with it, albeit he's got Sam Smith pushing him every step of the way. Smith runs a bit wide there, onto the brakes they'll go, but they'll stay as they were. Smith knowing not to fight it, given the grass of the tyres and the lack of grip, so that battle seems to have calmed down for a brief moment for the AM lead. But meanwhile, we come back to the overall lead battle, and as they push their way down through Durrington in towards Grand Hill Bend, it's still Delmont ahead of Mikey Doble and Benjamin McCluskey completing the top 3, with your prime leader Toby Prosser right behind, but there's no difference between them. It's 3 temps from car to car to car, if that, as they headed towards Surtees Bend, the corner that caught out Isaac Doble. 5 laps to go. Mikey Doble decides to try and go all the way round. It's a gamble, and it almost pays off as Adam Delmont almost caught out there, but he manages to cover it off just in time and get the traction as they head down towards Hawthorne's, but roaring the way down the fastest section of the circuit here, and we've seen many try and get it right under braking. Everyone seems to get it right this time. Nobody going sideways here, albeit Delmont, I think, feeling as though the car wants to go sideways. He defends the inside into Westfield. It'll mean that Doble will now look to cut back, get the better momentum of the corner. He does exactly that. Delmont leaving the door open here, and Mikey Doble and using tactics to his advantage as they come through Dinglendale and into Sheen, and as they make the way through the right, and Mikey Doble takes the lead on a classic move, and well, now it's 2 corners and a run to the finish line to go, and can Mikey Doble bring it on home here as Delmont is right on his heels. McCluskey's there as well. Toby Prosser would love an opportunity, as with Lee Horne and Isaac Doble, but as they headed towards Clearways, I don't think there's going to be any other opportunities unless Mikey makes an error here through the final corner, but he doesn't, and as the checker flag waves, it's going to be another win for Doble Sim Racing, but this time it's the 88 of Mikey Doble that takes the checker flag ahead of Adam Delmont for SO and Next Gen Gold. Benjamin McCluskey completes your top 3 for Next Gen Pink. Toby Prosser rounds off P4 and a win in the Prime Class Aztec Racing ahead of Lee Horne and Isaac Doble. Jamie Dory's P7 ahead of Michael Leisha, runner-up in the Prime Class. Patrick Falcon to P9. Ben Altrier completes the Prime Podium at P10 overall, and then further down the order as he makes his way out the final corner. He's had to fight incredibly hard for this, but for Mitchell West, it's an AM win in race number 2 for Mitch West Performance 101 Elantra, just ahead of Gabriel Yilmaz. Between them, Sam Smith, but the AM P2 will go to Gabriel Yilmaz, and a bit of heartbreak for Craig Tillerson, but he's still on the AM podium. He takes P3 in the AM class, P31 overall for Rhino Motorsports in what has been an absolutely topsy-turvy race number 2 following that open lap instant. But with that, we've got a couple more cars to make it to the checker flag, one of which the frustration will be building through a difficult race 1 and an even more difficult race number 2. But there's still more to come in race number 3. It's Matt Emmons who will take P7 in the M class. He'll get some points, but he'll know he needs more, because right now that championship lead is looking all but slashed as he crosses the line. And well, it will then have Russell Fowler and Roy Plummer to be your last 2 lead lap finishers as they'll make the way through. The rest of our drivers who've yet to finish the race are in the pit lane with damaged cars, and I suspect it's all going to be about race number 3 for many now and what they can salvage from it, as the Performance League Esports Audi RS3 that was in the barriers early on, it's made its way back out, but a frustrating race for Russell Fowler and for Brian Plummer as well, our last finisher, P39. But as they come to the end of their race, into the pit lane has already come Mikey Doble, your race winner from this second race of day. day, with Adam Delmont and Benjamin McCluskey completed the overall podium. What a race between them, no doubt about it. And Toby Prosser, as he lines up there alongside one of his teammates, they make the way on around. I believe that may be his teammate, what is Matthew Sheraton in the free lights. He will in the pits they come, and the Aztec Racing driver bringing on home 9. It was a solidly deserved Pro-Am win when Michael Leese and Ben Trier completed that Pro-Am podium. But goodness me, ladies and gentlemen, what a race. And as I try to gradually make the way on down, well, this man, he will have his day one day to take home an AM win. I swear it. But for Craig Tillotson today, as much as he huffed and puffed, it was Mitchell West and Gabriel Yilmaz who found a step ahead. But he gave it everything out there. And I'm sure the team will be giving him a massive pat on the back for taking P3 all the same. But as most of the drivers enter the pit lane and the last make the way around, let's take a look at those race results subject to stewards' inquiries. And here they are. After a highly dramatic race number 2 in round 9 of season 7 of the NXTCC, powered by Doble Motorcycles here on iRacing, Mikey Doble taking victory for Doble Sim Racing by 3 tenths over Adam Delmont for SRL and NXTGEN Gold. NXTGEN Pink's Benjamin McCluskey completing the overall podium, with Toby Prosser there just missing out on an overall podium spot, but taking P4 overall, and most importantly, Pro-Am victory for Aztec Racing. Lee Horne completed the top 5 there for Sam Case of the NXTGEN, fighting hard to keep Isaac Doble behind, who was leading until that unfortunate mistake at Surtees, but recovered well to finish P6 for Doble Sim Racing. Jamie Dory taking P7 in the NXTGEN Pink Machine, doing well to recover after a difficult race 1 and finding his way through all the chaos in the opening lap. Michael Leese, runner-up in the Pro-Am class, P8 for JW Motorsport overall, just ahead of teammate Patrick Falconer, and Ben Trier round off the Pro-Am podium across at Leese himself for Full Tilt Motorsport with a P10 there. He will take what will be a great result overall and in class, and the 504 driver will be smiling after that one. Harley Bicknell, one of the unsung heroes of this race, alongside teammate Luke Jones, both of them for JW Motorsport. They were P11, P12, and behind the Welshman Slavomir Jalvosky, P13 for Semper Racing. The last driver to be guaranteed to be in our reverse grid, with Ian Manners and Sam Van Ols for JW Motorsport and Goldwyn Motorsport respectively, completing your overall top 15 and taking home some overall points. Jonathan Robrix, unfortunate to miss out on the top 15 by what was a second, but the Valkyrie X-Type driver taking P16 ahead of Mark Sykes, and then to round off the top 20, it was Matthew Sheraton ahead of Wojciech Swirydowicz, who did well to finish inside the top 20, and he'll be hoping that reverse grid draw is kind to him, and John Higgins Jr. completed your top 20 there for the Sim Racing Collective. Ben Gregory, P21 for Full Tilt Motorsport ahead of Jake Pitt, with Matthew Addy, Andrew Pine and Duncan Rice completing your top 25. And then we see at P26, Mitchell West, your AM winner for Mitch West performance, fighting his way through after a difficult start to the race. But that's what he's become known for, the Australian driver. He really is the man who can dig deep in these wet conditions. Sam Smith there, splitting the AM finishers, with Gabriel Yilmaz, P28 for Aztec Racing, second place in the AM class, another AM podium trophy for him. And then completing the top 30, Tom Davidson and Alan McCain. And whilst they may not have been inside the top 10, they definitely enjoyed a great scrap there in the Prime class all the same. P31, your final AM podium finisher, P3 class, Craig Tillotson for Ferrari Motorsport, 2 tenths clear of Andy Fox at the line, and then Sam Bradley just missed out on an AM podium after that phenomenal race 1 win, but he'll know there's still more in the tank in race number 3. It was then Peter Jegoslavsky and Costa Chatskonstantu to P35, with Daniel Fritz just behind there by 10th at the finish line for Whiskey Runners Racing, and then Matt Emmons and Russell Fowler completed your top 38, and with it, Roy Plummer, your last lead lap finisher, P39. 6 laps down to both James Spencer-Scout and Marcel Fritsch, and given that it's an 11-lap race, they will be classified as non-finishers, and the same there for Jonathan Collins, who finished 7 laps down. It will be a DNF. So in the end, 42 starters, and was a grand total of 39 finishers, all of them on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen. But that sets us up quite nicely for our final race of the day, because still to come around the corner is race number 3, and we have had 2 absolutely stellar races. But of course, race number 3 is always the big highlight of the day, arguably, because it does have that all-important reverse grid draw. And as we cut to the commentary booth, good evening to you all, and I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the racing so far. Indeed, I'm quite speechless, to be honest, on how the first 2 races have gone at Brands Hatch, but that's why it's on the calendar, and it's a staple of the NXTCC. But as always, we do have our Next Gen Racing Lottery Bowl here, and what I'll very shortly do is close my eyes, shuffle the balls around, draw 2 of them out of the bowl, and we'll add the numbers together to decide where our reverse grid will be from. So without further ado, it is time for the draw. So that's the shuffle. And now we take our first ball out of the bowl. and it is going to be the number 9. Makes its first appearance of the season, I do believe. It's been hiding in there, but it does make an appearance in the end. But what will it be joined by? Because it's going to be a sizable reverse grid. Well, here we go. And we now draw our second ball. And to join the number 9 on the adventure today, it is going to be the number 11, which means it's a top 20 reverse grid. And on his return to the grid, John Higgins Jr. will take pole position over in the Prime class, and he'll be joined on the front row by door number 1's Wojciech Swirydowicz for Semper Racing. And Swirydowicz will know all he's got to do is bring some points home, preferably the win, in order to bring home what will be a second driver's title. Well, the stage is set for race number 3, ladies and gentlemen, and we will be back in approximately 7 to 8 minutes time for the build-up to race number 3. But as we do step away, we'll see you shortly, and here's a quick word from our title sponsor, Doble Motorcycles. If you are looking to buy your next two-wheeled machine or ATV, why not consider Doble Motorcycles? Home to an expansive full range of Honda motorcycles, scooters, off-road bikes and ATVs, Doble Motorcycles is the UK's leading Honda motorcycle dealer. However, do not just take our word for it. Having won numerous awards over the years, including 3 Motorcycle News Dealer of the Year awards, and being nominated for many more, including Honda Dealer of the Year 4 times, the Doble family-run business prides itself on customer service, and it shows. Add to this the family's rich racing history through 3 generations, as currently embodied by Mikey Doble Racing, with Mikey chasing glory in the BTCC, and you can be certain that you'll receive excellent customer service from lights out to checkered flag. So if you'd like to know more, check out their website today at doble.co.uk. Speaking of Mikey Doble Racing, if you'd like to support Mikey as he pushes it to the limit out on track, you can do so by following the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page as seen on screen. Additionally, if you want to represent the 88 Army at a BTCC weekend, Mikey Doble Racing has some fantastic merchandise available just for you, as may be found either via the Mikey Doble Racing Facebook page, or alternatively in the Doble Motorcycle store at dobledirect.co.uk. Don't miss out on being a part of the 88 Army today. We return to the racing, ladies and gentlemen, for one last time today. We've had races 1 and 2, and they have been absolutely ferocious, fight-filled races. We've got one more to come. And as we can see, it looks as though the circuit might have dried up quite a bit since race number 2. Indeed, our marshals have been out there sweeping away the standing water as best as they can. The clouds are looking ominous, but the sun is shining as well over the Brands Hatch circuit as evening settles in. And well, with that, could we have a dry race and perhaps a more traditional, conventional race to wrap up the day? But I can tell you one driver who'll definitely be hoping for a much calmer race, and he is your pole sitter of the final race of the day, inherited pole position through the top 20 reverse grid draw, in the fact that we pulled the number 20 out of our lottery bowl, and it will be John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective, who will find himself starting on pole for the final time today. He'll be your pro and pole sitter as well, but he will be joined on that front row by none other than Wojciech Swirydowicz, the man who only needs to score some points today in order to bring home that championship crown, but he's yet to do so in races 1 and 2, with misfortune striking him both times, and we'll be hoping race number 3 it's just about staying out of trouble and leading himself on through to what will be the wider victory. But we'll have to wait to see for the Semper Racing driver as he makes his way on down into Graham Hill Bend. Indeed, anything is possible in the NXTCC. We have seen it time and time again over the course of the day today. And indeed, right now, with just the best part of a minute to go before we head to the grid, I think all the drivers will be absolutely itching to attack the Brands Hatch circuit for one more time. Another driver who's had a lot of misfortune beset him so far today, Matt Emmons, the AM Championship leader, coming into this round, and we'll be hoping that this final race it's going to be a much calmer race and he can start to claw his way back in and pick up some key points, because right now Mitchell West seems to be the driver who's taken the lion's share from the first 2 races, and with West being the main championship contender to Emmons in terms of the closest, Daniel Fritz not being too far off as well, albeit having a very anonymous day today by comparison. Well, we could see a massive point swing going into that season finale in Interlagos, and of course it's the last thing you want, or is it, given that success bias follows you from round to round, and going into round knowing that you have a little bit less weight may just be beneficial, particularly at a circuit like Interlagos where that weight is going to be felt incredibly so with the number of elevation changes. Well, that's next week, and we can theorise about that as much as possible, but what we have to do is come back to the here and now, and what we do know in the present, as Tom Davidson pulls off the circuit there, is that it's almost time for race number 3, and with it being a dry circuit, it's going to be a classic at Brands Hatch's Grand Prix layout in order to wrap up the day. But who will our winners be? It's time to find out. And as our drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they'll line up for our final race of the day. As in fact, there the grid not quite updating itself in time, but there we go, it is correct now for race number 3. It is John Higgins Jr. who takes pole position for the Sim Racing Collective, joined on the front row by Wojciech Swirydowicz. The Semper Racing drive will be followed up by Aztec Race's Matthew Sheraton and Sam Case with NXTGEN's Mark Sykes. Round number 3 will go to Jonathan Robrix for Valkyrie Exime and Sam Vidal for Doble Motorcycles, with Ian Manners for JW Motorsport and Semper Racing Salame Jalvoski line up in row 4, and Luke Jones for JW Motorsport and Harley Bicknell, his teammate, completed the top 10. Indeed, this race is a great opportunity for both Semper Racing and JW Motorsport to get a huge haul points in the team's championship. P11, P12, it's Ben Altrier and Patrick Falconer, and they'll be on row 7, Michael Lees and Jamie Dorey, with Isaac Doble and Lee Horne, P15 and P16. P17 goes to Toby Pross ahead of Benjamin McCluskey, and we complete the reversal through to P20 for Adam Delmont and Mikey Doble, with Ben Gregory starting P21 ahead of Jake Pitt. But there we have to stop the run through the starting order, ladies and gentlemen, because the starting lights are already going. It's another quick start, but with 3, then 4, then 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go for the final time today as John Higgins looks to get a slow start, but Wojciech Swirydowicz immediately launches off the line, and as they all battle, clatter their way in towards turn number 1, Mark Sykes leaps his way up into P2. Oh, goodness me! And Jonathan Robrix is speared off the road there. We'll have to see what happened there and to get a replay of that a bit later on. But meanwhile, as we come into Druids Bend, everybody right now immediately on the attack here. They're all used to the fact that this circuit is dry now, and therefore they can give it everything. You can see nobody's holding back as they make the way on down the hill. You think it was the end of the season. Contact there between Patrick Falconer and what is Benjamin McCluskey, and well, in the end, Patrick Falconer sent off the road, and taking with him was the Audi and Jake Pitt. But as they return, oh no, and that's got even more wrong for the number 6 of Jonathan Roberts. As if he couldn't be involved in one major incident at the start of this race, he's involved in two, as they all try to calm down now. But Jonathan Roberts having a load of misfortune at the start, and we'll have to try and understand what exactly happened to him in due course. But meanwhile, return to the front of the field. As I try to make the way around, Samuel Jarboski under pressure from Luke Jones, and Jones trying to put even more pressure on to gain places here, given the fact that he'll want to be joining Ian Manners just in front to make it what will be a JW Motorsport pair that all the way through this running order. But it's easier said than done as they come into Dingledale, and Samuel Jarboski in the end of the side-by-side netco contact there with what's Luke Jones, and Jones goes to the grass. Jarboski just about survives it, and that is going to completely upset the apple cart for both of them and the order as Matthew Cheverton now piles through and moves into P4 as he battles around the outside of Ian Manners. Although I think Ian Manners here is the one on the attack, and Manners will gain the place, move up to P4 as they head towards the timeline. So after one lap, it's Wojciech Swirydowicz who leads by 2.5 seconds over John Higgins Jr. Mark Sykes follows after the prime leader P3 ahead of Ian Manners. And then we do have Samuel Jarboski, P5, ahead of Matthew Sheraton, then Isaac Doble, then Jamie Dory, Samuel Olsen and Lee Horton completes your top 10. P11, it's Mikey Doble best of the rest, and meanwhile in the AM class, in a much more conventional manner, it would seem Matt Emmons and Craig Tillerson. It's a 1-2 currently in the AM class for the two teammates, albeit I believe we may have a safety car out there, ladies and gentlemen, albeit that being forward to be quite late on in the day. Well, I believe the safety car may be for the open lap incident that has collected quite a few drivers, including Mitchell West, Andy Fox and Sam Bradley. I suspect there's actually been another incident we haven't seen on camera, because we have had the best part of 8 drivers into the pit lane at the end of lap number 1, and well, that would explain why we've seen Emmons and Tillerson perhaps come through the order so rapidly, not to besmirch their own reputations, but the fact there might have been something else that happened in the AM class that's really mixed things up further down the order. But let's take a look back at that race start, and here we go in terms of looking at the race start for Wojciech Swirydowicz initially, and then we will jump our focus to Jonathan Roberts, and Swirydowicz here absolutely nailing the start and already putting the best part of a second over the field as he made his way on through. Roberts in the meantime in the middle of the road, then pulls the inside, bit of a contact there between himself and the Doble Motorsport car. I believe that was not Andy Fox, was further on down, that was the Doble Motorsport car of Sam Vernost. And then what else happens? There must be something else. Oh goodness, and that is where it's gone very, very wrong. That was, I believe, what was the Doble Motorsport car? Well, I think that was Duncan Rice, in fact, who was going very slowly there, and the car limping along and collected a whole motor and drive. In fact, yes, it was the 33 Duncan Rice, and that explains it. Duncan being involved initially in the contact with Jonathan Roberts, the car rolling backwards there, and we're not able to get the brakes on it, would seem. But in the end, Duncan Rice just ended up in multiple incidents at the same time, and it all went wrong for him. In fact, we take a look back at his race start from the on board before we do head back to live pictures, and well, as he made his way away, a reasonable start there from the number 33 as they all made the way up the hill, and Doug Grace wasn't involved in the incident at the front. That was Sam Vernost, we should correct ourselves. So Doble Motorsport cars being involved left, right and centre on lap number 1. Grace has a good start, gets through turn 1 A-OK, battling there with Andrew Pikes. We see Jonathan Roberts trying to rejoin, and up into the braking zone here. How's it going to happen? Well, Grace in the end comes to the grass and slides onto the path of Mitchell West, and that is what set the chain reaction to Grace taking a base of action after breaking a little bit late into Druids, and it all went wrong. But as we return to your live racing pictures, ladies and gentlemen, we're not quite up to racing speeds as of yet after analysing some of the major incidents from lap number 1, but we are indeed currently behind the safety car. I suspect the safety car may be in at the end of this lap, but Wojciech Swirydowicz right now is still your race leader ahead of John Higgins Jr. and Mark Sykes completes that top 3. The pro ahead of the 2 primes, and remember, all Swirydowicz needs to do in this race is bring it home, and he will, I believe, take enough points to go into our season finale as essentially a champion-elect, i.e. he cannot be beaten on point points, even if something miraculous were to happen. Albeit we're not going to confirm that come the end of today. We will wait until the season finale to confirm that, because we made some title calls in the past a bit prematurely, and well, we've got those wrong, and we're not going to get this one wrong for what could be our two-time champion in the NXTCC overall, and he'll be joining alongside what will be Jamie Dorian, becoming a two-time champion. We've only ever had 3 overall champions in the NXTCC. 3 crowns have gone to Mikey Doble, our most decorated driver, 2 to Jamie Dorian, and well, it could be at the end of the season 2 to this man, Mr. Wojciech Swirydowicz, a man who definitely has proven since season 6 to be a step ahead of the competition, and well, could it come down to what is 8 laps of distance. As they make the way to Sterling's Bend, the safety car begins to pull away. It is open up a gap, so I believe we are getting the restart on this lap. And as they make the way on down the final major stretch before the start of finish, you can see that Swirydowicz maintaining a good amount of speed, not getting up to speed too quickly. I suspect to do it on the exit of Clearways here. It does exactly that. We are back to racing, ladies and gentlemen. On to lap number 4 we go. And John Higgins Jr. staying right with Swirydowicz there, knowing exactly where he was going to go for it. Swirydowicz is going to work a little bit harder if he wants to break the attack of the Sim Racing Collective driver, but we are back to green flag racing as they roar their way through turn number 1 and up the hill towards turn 2. The sun is shining, the cloud is breaking up, so we are going to have a dry race to wrap up this day. Isaac Doble, meanwhile, up the inside there, and Matthew Cheverton into Druids Bend, so making some early progress. Jamie Dory as well looking to make the attack here as they come down in towards Graham Hill Bend. Cheverton made to back off there, and it will drop to P8. He's not going to upset about that. He's got Sam Vidal's down. This will be a driver he won't want to let go, as the Aztec Racing team. I definitely find with Golden Motorsports in the team's championship, but I don't think he's going to have any answer to that, as it also immediately up the inside, and Mikey Doble as well. Cheverton got damage on that car, because the Aztec Racing Elantra does not seem to be wanting to pull, and in fact it really looks like it's going backwards here, and that is not to insult Matthew Cheverton, but it just looks like the car's got no speed whatsoever here as they head in towards Hawthorne's Bend. Albeit that's brave from Lee Horne. He's going to make it count. Cheverton giving him the racing room, but struggling. I wonder if that car's coming into the pit shortly, as meanwhile Mikey Doble makes his way past Sam Vidal. And a lovely move there into Westfield Better corner, where he's made multiple moves over the course of today, and adds another one to the overtake count as he exits and onwards towards Sterling's. But as he does so, meanwhile, further back, we do have a bit of battling here coming out of the tree line between Jake Pitt and Toby Prosser, and we can just see in the foreground there, that is none other than Peter Jegoslavsky making his way around the outside of Craig Tillerson and Jonathan Collins, and well, Jegoslavsky's going to make that move count, but meanwhile Collins still trying to find his way through for P2 in the AM class. Matt Evans has run off into the distance, so right now Tillerson is a little bit of a rear guard for his Verado Motorsport teammate, although you can understand why, given the fact that in terms of the championships, the AM Championship crown is going to be the priority, and as they head across line, well, Tillerson doing a fantastic job here defending versus Collins, albeit Collins is going to try and brave it around the outside, but the rear of the car does let go for a brief moment. He catches it in time. We do have a number of drives on with the wet tyre. In fact, that explains why Matthew Cheverton is going so slowly. My eyes do not answer the question until now, and it's because Cheverton's on the wet tyre, as is Pitt, as is Prosser. They've all gambled at Aztec Racing on it raining in this race, as we got Collins slices up the inside of Craig Tillerson and makes the move there for Peter in the outcast into Graham Hill Bend, coming from quite far back, but in the end Collins feeling a lot braver on the brakes. The clouds now coming back over. Surely it's not going to rain again in the second half of this race, as both Tillerson and Collins run wide. I can't see any rain on my camera. I think they're both just making mistakes, their own volition, and Adam Delmont storms his way on past, but I wouldn't put it past it to have some drops come in the final closing stage of this race, because the weather right now is absolutely unpredictable. That has to be said, as the drivers come up through Hawthorne's. Meanwhile, we look up the order, and well, as we can see them come through the tree line, it is going to be Andrew Pike, who just manages to sneak ahead of Luke Jones, or does he, as they head onto the brakes into Sterling's. Jones is there still, defending outside to inside from Dingle into Sterling's, but Pike in the end plants the throttle and says, no you don't. He'll blast his way through, and as they come in towards what is turn number 9, well, the driver in particular that I'm thinking of that Andrew Pike is challenging right now is his inner Peter Cox, who raced for the Honda manufacturers team of the Super Touring era, and will absolutely do a fantastic job as they make their way in towards turn 1. Michael Lees and Luke Jones, the two JW Motorsport drivers, the teammates, I think they'll just be focusing on keeping it together right now and not stepping on each other's toes. Harley Bicknell, their teammate as well, behind them by 1 second. As they come through Druids on this 6th tour of the circuit on this final race of the day, I think they're preparing another attack versus Andrew Pike, but they'll still get some open teams points here, as well as prime points for P7, P8 in class. So therefore they can't be too upset about that, but they would love to let tomorrow's Harley Vic will explore the track limits there, coming out of Graham Hill Bend, and meanwhile Alan McCain taking a slice to the inside versus what is Matthew Addy, and there's Sam Smith trying to clatter his way through as well and hoping that McCain can get the door opened up for the pair of them. But Addy's not going to let that one go anytime soon, as it's a damaged Audi RS3 battling against a damaged Honda Civic, but we know that Audi is stronger on the straights, and as they come in towards the right-hander of Hawthorne's, Will Smith around the outside. The Honda's got so much grip in the dry, it has to be noted, and Addy meanwhile defending as much as he might on the inside here. Smith just trying to push it to the absolute limit, runs out onto the grass in the end, and Will Smith finding a lot of grip, but then not enough to make it count, and in at the end has to settle back in to what is P19. But going in towards Sterling's Bend here, behind him is AM leader Matt Emmons, and Emmons right now just staying in the hunt here, just making sure he keeps plenty of distance between himself and the rest of the Anfielders. I can see rain on my camera screens right now, ladies and gentlemen. Surely we're not going to see a repeat of Suzuka Race 3 last week, where we're going to get the sudden transition from dry to wet around the midway point, and then it's the gamble on the tyre compound. But if you're part of Aztec Racing right now, Matthew Sheraton in particular, he's going to start to grin a little bit, knowing these are the conditions he needs in order to get the most out of that tyre. We've got Daniel Fritz in the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised if the Whiskey Runners Racing driver has just said, right, I'm going in for the wet compound, I've got nothing to lose at this point, as Phil McDougall there in the YouTube chat saying with regards to Breathe the Rain, and it's finally arrived. Well, as they make the way on down the hill, the rain is definitely gradually arriving. It's not too heavy, but it's definitely notable, and I think the pace is going to slip away, or will it slip enough to make the wet compound the optimum tyre? Well, that's the question we'll answer in due order as we ride on board here with Benel Tria as he battles side by side Benjamin McCluskey, who's on his left. You can't see McCluskey, but I can assure you he's there. And meanwhile, they make the way. There is McCluskey taking the position as you can start to see a little bit of spray coming up of the racing line. The full Tilby Motorsport driver falls back to P12 as we briefly lose Andrew Pike for a moment. And well, meanwhile, in fact, I think we had an off track for Sam Smith. I do apologise. It was Smith who's falling behind them as they headed towards the braking zone here for turn number 8 and rolling on out. Tria pushing it hard, and will Fritz into the pit lane, Roy Plummer into the pit lane as well, but they're AM drivers who are gambling at the back of the field, and therefore as they come on through the right hander, we've also got the question of what happened between Ian Manners and Mark Sykes earlier on. That's a good spot there from what is Alan Move, and we will try to find out what happened to Mark Sykes in order. He's dropped down to P8, or I suspect it's just been moves that have been made on the pair of them, and in fact we do have a quick replay to explain the full story. This was much earlier in the race, and this was back on none other, in lap number 5, battling side by side into Druids, and Will Sykes leaving the door open, and Slavoj Javoski doing the same, and then I think Isaac Doble, all of them in fact wanting to come from Mark Sykes going quite slowly. In fact, Sykes going very slowly indeed. Doesn't look like there's any visible damage on the car, although saying that, it's crawling along a little bit. I wonder if there's been a bit of contact to the suspension of that car, because it seems to be struggling. Albeit it's holding on to P8 currently as we return to your live racing pictures, albeit we're riding back on board with Benel Tria. Those wipers are going on, so therefore I think Mark Sykes may have just found himself out of position for a moment after what was a move from Ian Manners, a well-crafted move, it must be said, from the JW Motorsport driver, just catching Mark Sykes off guard into Druids, and therefore upsetting the momentum of his race. You see Roy Plummer there running a bit wide. He's gambled to go to the wet compound, and well, that gamble perhaps not playing off at the moment because the rain is gradual. It's not heavy enough in order to force a very sudden transition. You can see a little bit of spray here for the drivers, but I suspect, given we're coming towards the end of lap number 8, and then on towards lap 9, there's a double run wide there for both Sykes and also Sam Van Ols, so the grip levels are falling. But in terms of lap times, well, as our leaders make the way across the line, Wojciech Swirydowicz a 1:36.54 as he comes on around. Benel Tria's into the pits, I suspect that's to put on wet. Meanwhile, Matthew Sheraton, well, his last lap was a 38.92. We're going to watch him here as he comes towards the line, following his run in towards the last corner into clearways. That is Mitchell West going around the outside, and West trying to make more places here, knowing he's got it all to lose in terms of the AM Championship. But as Sheraton heads towards the timeline this time with some battling, what's the lap time going to be? Versus Swirydowicz's 36. For Sheraton, it is going to be a 41.5, so it is not perhaps ideal to go to the wet compound here, as Ultria in the pit lane has gone to the wet tyre, but I think they're not going to have enough time in order to bring that wet compound into its ideal operating window. Meanwhile, looking back up towards the front of the field, this is Ian Manners, who's trying to keep Slavomir Jaworski behind, as the Semper Racing team would love to get an even bigger bounty of points from their second driver inside the top 10, and Jaworski right now on the hump. But Manners is not going to give in, given that JW Motorsport are looking also to battle for the top 5 of the team's championship. It is an absolutely brilliant fight, with the best part of what is 7 teams contesting P2 through to P8 at the end of the day. And meanwhile, Ian Manners, he makes his way up the rise. We can see the rain there is starting to increase in intensity, and all the drivers right now having to tiptoe around. But the problem will be is there's a move there for Jaworski up the inside, and well said there from Alan Luke at the YouTube chat, is that the last lap is going to be mad on the dry tyre, because they're naturally losing pace and tyre temperature here. So therefore, the more the race goes on, it's only going to become trickier. But the problem is, will the wet compound make its way up to pace here? With Manners and Jaworski fighting so hard against each other, this is going to displace a lot of standing water that could potentially form, so it's going to help the dry runners behind them as they come across the line. Jaworski still holding the outside here, and in the end, Manners, as much as he'd love to make it 2-1 up towards Druid, has to give in there on the penultimate lap. But fantastic battling, and the Semper Racing driver Jaworski making it look like a classic move and making it exactly that. But meanwhile, Mikey Doble, JB Dory, 2 established NXTCC veterans and multi-time champions, fight each other. And Mikey Doble looking around the outside, and Manners coming out Graham Hill Bend, but perhaps a little bit of impatience there from the 88. And Dory's going to come immediately back into this as they come in towards 30s. But Mikey Doble's going to dive to the inside there of Manners on through 30s, but it forces Manners wide. There's contact, and then it's going to almost be a three-way fight, albeit Dory having to back out there. 9, there's not enough room to work with. Reed right on board here with the number 13 Veloster from NXTGEN Pig. And as Dory looks up the inside here into Hawthorne's bend, you can see they're having to take a tighter line. Very little grip available. Manners the same, runs very deep out the corner. Doble on the outside to inside line gets a better run, but he's not close enough to look up the inside to Westfield. And is there any grip on the inside of Westfield? I think is the bigger question, and the answer is potentially no. But I think when the rain is falling, those inside lines now are becoming a lot more hazardous for the dry tyre runners. Matthew Sheraton leading wet runner is still P25, just to give you an update there. So he's not really coming through the field. I don't think we've got enough laps in this race to let the wet compound come alive. But meanwhile, Ian Manners is definitely coming alive here, fending off what is 2 multi-time champions. Albeit Mikey Doble is going to say no to that as he looks around the outside. Albeit it's going to be a drag race all the way up towards what will be turn 1. And well, Manners on the inside, Doble on the outside. Dory placing his bets, looks inside as well. It's almost 3 wide into the break. It's open. Dory backs out there. 9, the space isn't going to be open forever. And Mikey Doble now locks into a 2-way battle between himself and Manners. But here comes Dory once again. He thinks about putting it out in the middle, trying to make it 3 wide, but there's not enough space. Manners goes a little bit deep. Doble follows him out, and as they head on down from Druids in towards Graham Hill Bend, well, Manners still holding on, but Doble forcing the issue back open into Graham Hill, and surely this is going to be enough as the 2 go wide, and Dory's not close enough to potentially get involved. And Mikey Doble on the inside into Surtees, with Jaworski being given a little bit of breathing room, but going slowly, and Mikey Doble sipes his way inside, but it's turned across the front of Jaworski, and Doble's enthusiasm in the end gets the better of him. Albeit it's not to say whose fault that incident is in, but in the fact the 88 drives, he turns it around and gets it off the road, will falls foul in the end of a bit of contact with the Semper Racing driver. Meanwhile, up front, the Semper Racing's leader, the number 1 of Wojciech Swirydowicz, is on course for a 1.6 second advantage to bring home this win. But Isaac Doble and John Higgins Jr. fighting for the runner-up spot here, albeit Higgins Jr. will be bringing home the prime win. Either way this battle goes at this point, but he's going to have a look into Sterling's, but I think he thinks better of that given the amount of grip available, and we're being cautious there all the way in towards Clearways. Perhaps he can get it in the final quarter. We'll have to see as they make their way to a line, but one thing that is guaranteed here as he makes his way out the final quarter, races 1 and 2 were a disaster, but he's found redemption and recovery in race 3 to take victory for the first time here today, and Wojciech Swirydowicz from Semper Racing takes the checker flag ahead of Isaac Doble for Doble Sim Racing, and your Pro-Am winner is John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective, ahead of what will be Ian Manners, who held on to P4 in the end, and Slavomir Jaworski being passed by Manners on the final lap, and that will complete your prime podium. Jamie Dory P6, Benjamin McCluskey P7, Mark Sykes holds on to a valiant P8 and full place in the prime class. further back, Matt Emmons comes on through to take AM victory, P18 overall for Horne Motorsport, and he's needed that victory to reset the progress made by Mitchell West in races 1 and 2. Jonathan Collins, your runner-up in the Prime class, P20 in AM class, I should say, P20 overall, and Mitchell West, despite it all, takes the 3rd spot on the AM podium. And my gut feeling says that Mitchell West will now be your AM Championship leader going into the season finale, given his rudder results here today in what has been a completely unpredictable round. We've still got a few more drivers to finish their race, including Marcel Fritsch and Ben Gregory, as Gregory heads out the final quarter. And as he heads up towards the timeline, the full tilt motorsport driver will be P34, 19th in Prime class. No points to be gained from this race, but for the 113 driver, he's made it to the end. Marcel Fritsch P7 in the AM class, just behind him P30, what was P35, Gabriel Yilmaz, and then Russell Fowler, Ben Altria, and it will be, last but not least, Duncan Moraes, who finishes P39 on the lead lap. We've got multiple lap down finishers, including Daniel Fritz, Roy Plummer, and Lee Horne. But goodness me, a difficult day today for the Doble Motorsport driver. Found himself in the thick of it at races 1 and 2, but in race number 3, it just was not to be. But as Swirydowicz makes his way into the pit lane here, the Semper Racing driver will feel confident that could be it. That could be enough to seal the deal to make him a 2-time and back-to-back overall drivers champion. And I believe it is, but we're not going to confirm it until we arrive on the scene at Interlagos in a week's time. But just ahead of Isaac Doble and John Higgins Jr. to take that prime win, well, he'll be absolutely chuffed with that, as indeed Father John will be as well. And well, as they all come into the pit lane further on back, Matt Emmons making his way on in there, and indeed everyone having to tiptoe their way in, particularly on the slick tyre, given how slippery it is. In fact, we've had a couple of incidents there into the pit lane, it would seem, but Matt Emmons being pushed along there, and well, another AM victory, and an important one, and that may just be enough to level the playing field versus Mitchell West going into the season finale, with Jonathan Collins as well today picking up the points for Whiskey Runners Racing in a very challenging day of racing for the team. But some days that's the way it goes. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So for race number 3 of round 9 of season 7 of the NXTCC, powered by Doble Motorcycles and brought to you on iRacing, Semper Racing's Wojciech Swirydowicz, your winner by 1.2 seconds over Doble Sim Race's Isaac Doble, and then 3rd place finisher and Pro-Am winner on his return to the grid, John Higgins Jr. for the Sim Racing Collective. Behind him, Ian Manners, P4 for JW Motorsport, ahead of Slavomir Jalvosky for Semper Racing. That was your prime podium of Higgins Jr., Manners and Jalvosky. Congratulations to all 3 of them, and a special mention to Ian Manners for holding on to that run-up spot in the prime class, and also that P4 overall in what has got to have been one of the best defences I've seen versus 2 of the most established drivers on the grid. Jamie Dory P6 there for NXTGEN Pink, ahead of teammate Benjamin McCluskey, and then Mark Sykes P8 for Sam Case for NXTGEN. Being caught out by the move by Ian Manners, but still at the same time holding on for some great points. Sam Van Ols P9 for Goldwyn Motorsport, the number 92 in the end, coming on home true. And Luke Jones round off the top 10 there for JW Motorsport. The Welshman just ahead of his teammate Michael Lease, Bester SP11. Alan McCain ahead of his teammate for Irish Esports, Sam Smith, P12, P13 for the pair. And then your top 15 completed by Mikey Doble, who fell to P14 after that altercation with Slavomir Jalvosky on the penultimate lap. And the Doble Sim Racing driver being followed up to complete the top 15 by Matthew Addy for Sam Case for NXTGEN. Peter Jigowski, P16 for Semper Racing, ahead of Andrew Pipe, the Sim Racing Collective driver, having plenty of battling today, but not rewarding battling, unfortunately, it must be said. Matt Emmons, your AM winner, P18 there for Verano Motorsport, congratulations to him. And your top 20 being rounded off by Adam Delmont and Jonathan Collins, runner-up in the AM class, P20 overall for the Whiskey Runners Racing driver in a solid drive to complete his day. Harley Bicknell, P21, ahead of his JW Motorsport teammate Patrick Falconer. Mitchell West, P23 there for Mitch West Performance, round off the AM podium of Emmons, Collins and himself, and will add into that win in race number 2. And that could prove incredibly important when we come to the provisional standings after round number 9 in due course. And then Matthew Sheraton and Jonathan Roberts completed your top 25. Sam Bradley, P26, recovering to P4 in the AM class in this final race today, just ahead of Tom Davidson and Craig Tillerson. And we saw the top 30 being completed by Toby Prosser and Jake Pitt, with Aztec Racing's trio of drivers being completed there by James Spazasgal. And that gamble to go to the wet tyres, much like teammate Matthew Shepperton in P24, just not paying off. The rain did not come soon enough, and the same can be said for many another driver behind them who all switched to the wets, including what was their Andy Fox of Goldwyn Motorsport, and also their Costa Chatscontananu, Ben Gregory, Marcel Fridge, Gabriel Yilmaz, Russell Fowler, Ben Altria P38, and then we did see Duncan Moraes last of the lead lap finishers P39 for Goldwyn Motorsport, head of lap down finishers Daniel Fritz, Roy Plummer and Lee Horne. And well, ladies and gentlemen, 42 starters in that one, 42 finishers, 39 on the lead lap. And it's great to see all of our drivers make it to the checker flag in race number 3. But that does conclude all of our racing here today from the Garden of England and the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. But of course, we've still got more to come on today's show. Do let us know in the meantime as we get ready for our post-round interviews of our volunteer drivers. Do let us know in your respective broadcast chat what has been your favourite moment or moments from today's races. And we will be back in approximately 10 to 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere. You won't miss them. We will see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews. And today we're going to be hearing from an all-AM class interview group. Started off with the 284 from 287 Motorsport, that's Costa Chats Continental. We'll then be coming on to Verana Motorsports drivers Matt Emmons and also Craig Tillerson. But we begin our story with Costa Chats Continental, and well, he does join me very shortly in the interview room. In fact, he does join me now. And good evening to you, Costa. And what a crazy day of racing it's been for all, but yourself included there. You may be towards the back battling amongst the AM class, but it looks like you had plenty of fun now on the Brands Hatch circuit, and also along the way enjoyed some fantastic fights for top 5 finishes in class.
Yeah, it was like I had pace once, which was pretty weird considering like I'm a kind of moving chicane when it comes to touring cars, 'cause I'm still trying to figure out how to actually drive them. Race 1, I had a bit of a battle with someone, then obviously netcode came into things. I don't like blaming netcode for stuff, but like it was clearly netcode, you could tell by the side-by-side and everything. So that took me out of contention. Race 2, I had a lot more pace than expected, obviously because it was half rain, half dry. Then race 3 was a bit crazy with battling with the Aztec team, which was cool on the last few laps. And yeah, it was pretty fun.
Well, fun being the key. You're talking a little bit there about the pace that's come with the changeable conditions. I mean, in qualifying, not quite able to get a lap on the board and starting technically from the final row of the grid, but that's never stopped you before. But what was the challenge in qualifying? Were you just finding you couldn't quite put a lap together, or was it, you know what, start from the back and just see what unfolds on race 1?
Yeah, it was more start from the back because obviously in Paddock Hill, there's loads. It feels like there's loads of room going into Paddock Hill, but as soon as you go into the drop, it just narrows up so quickly. So I decided to start from the back and just try and like work up, step back to about Druids, then try and work my way through there.
Well, a tactical decision not to put a lap, and well, it seemed to benefit you initially, but like you say, unfortunately in race number 1, a little bit of a pesky netcode contact, really upsetting the momentum you were able to make. But it looks as though this Veloster and yourself really started to gel well in those wet conditions, so a lot of positives to take from race 1 regardless.
Yeah, I had loads of pace going in. Like obviously, let me start again. I didn't do that much practice, so I wasn't really considering like, how stuff's going to happen. But obviously, get around with first lap safe, that would be fine. Then, obviously, like, after the first couple of laps in the race, try and build from there. But didn't work out, obviously, because of the incident. And yeah, man was just going on to race 2.
Well, moving on to race number 2, another race which saw very mixed conditions, and in race number 2 it looked as though you were able to get right into the thick of it, and in the end a P5 finishing class, P35 overall, and there were some great battles then at one point as well, running in the podium places.
Yeah, it should have gone a lot better for me because I don't think you caught it on stream, but I accidentally spammed the safety car because I went a bit too wide out of Paddock Hill, seeing if I could like maybe chance something when the safety car restarted. So I spun and then just couldn't get. It was like the Chuckle Brothers really, because you couldn't really turn the car, and it was hilarious. But obviously, I'm a bit disappointed in not getting the podium. Like it would have been nice, but top 5 overall, I'll take that any day. I didn't actually know it was top 5 as well, so yeah, it's really good.
Well, a solid result there. Some great points to be banked, despite the misfortune that you did have with regards to trying to get a bit of a heads up on the safety car restart. But then coming into race number 3, of course, a race that started in the dry and then evolved into the wet towards the end, but not wet enough for the wet compound. How did you find it out there in race 3? Because it looked as though, at least for the first 2/3 of the race, we were back up to full race pace and everybody was absolutely mixing it up. It was almost as if it was an end of season race.
Yeah, obviously there was an early safety car which kind of played into my hands a bit, but and then like, if we didn't have a safety car, it would have not been raining, but well, it would have been like weird. Yeah, so race started off with me, did the same thing, kept my head down. So was a couple of incidents all over the place. Towards the end of the race, I had a pretty decent battle with the 3 Aztec guys, going in through the final sector, it narrows up a lot round there, especially through Sterling's. I nearly tried barging my way through, but then I thought, oh, but I noticed they were wet, and then obviously after that, like, they built a lot more pace on me. But yeah, it was really fun. It was probably the best race I've ever had in the NXTCC. And yeah, hopefully at Interlagos we can go better.
Well, we've still got one more round to go, and like you say, it is Interlagos in a week's time. You've had a solid set of performances over the course of this season, and battling inside the top 10, and even have an outside chance potentially of stealing away at P6 of the championship after the season finale. But what can we expect from yourself at Interlagos?
I don't know, because I've hardly raced the track, but yeah, the only experience I've got realistically, I've not done any practice on the track just yet, but the only experience I've got is watching the TCR Brazil race there once at I think it was like 4 o'clock in the morning in Birmingham one time. But yeah, I'm hoping I can build on the pace, as you say, but we'll just have to see.
Well, we look forward to seeing what you're able to achieve in our season finale in a week's time. But just before I do let you go, Costa, as always, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to mine and my brother's media company, Autofocus Motorsport Media, and obviously all the admin team here and yourself for putting on this awesome show which you guys have built.
Well, thank you, Costa, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. As always, it's great to hear from you. Congratulations on your performances over the course of the racing today. And whilst it didn't all quite work out, we're definitely seeing those glimmers of promise for yourself race after race. And we look forward to seeing plenty more in our season finale next week.
Yeah, me too. See you later.
All the best. So hearing there from a positive 287 Motorsports, Costa Chatscontinental, and really talking about there a few missed opportunities, although interesting as well in the fact opting to not put a lap in qualifying, but instead use the session in order to get some practice in and really get himself set up for what would be race number 1. Albeit in race number 1, a bit of misfortune striking midway through the race, a contact between himself and another driver, and in that contact, seeing his progress in the race being confounded. But still, all the positives to take. And going into race number 2, we've got to see some glimmers there of Chatscontinental battling for the podium, albeit a bit of an error costing him dear. And then going into what was race number 3, off of the back of a P5 finish in the M class and some solid points, it would be a P6 finish in the class, albeit in very changeable conditions in the closing stages. But still enjoying the battle in there with the Aztec Racing team and giving himself a chance there to really take the fight to him, albeit they're on the wet compound, and in the end deciding not to push his luck too hard in terms of trying to get his elbows out, knowing that there might be the wrath of the stewards and also some big points still to be had in taking P33 overall and P6 in the class. And also mentioned there about the fact not too experienced in racing around the Interlagos circuit, but will draw on his experiences from watching Brazilian Touring Car Racing Cup around there, indeed racing around there each and every year. And I do believe it's the place where Rubens Barrichello was crowned quite recently, within the last 5 years, a Brazilian TCR champion. But could we see a champion's drive from Costa Chatscontinental there? Could we perhaps even see him bring home his first ever AM wings? He has had a couple of AM podiums this season. Well, all that's to be unfolded in a week's time. But now, ladies and gentlemen, coming to our second interviewee, and we're going to be hearing very shortly from Matt Emmons, the Runner Motorsport driver who today needed things to go his way, but it didn't quite all go to plan. But still, it's going to be one of those stories whereby he's going to take the positives from today and channel that energy into a season finale. And well, as he gets ready to join, we will hear the story about his performances across all 3 races and that important win in race number 3 as he joins me in the interview now.
Hi, Paul.
Good evening to you, Matt. And well, in the build-up to today, we were talking a lot about points are worth the prizes and the consistency that you've had over the last couple of rounds being your focus. But if anything today, you were consistent for the most part, but in the places you didn't want to be, 2 P7s and then a win in race number 3, albeit a P2 in qualifying as well. Perhaps not the night you were hoping for.
No, I think all my bad luck that I've missed this season's caught up with me in race 1 and 2 tonight. I mean,
Race 1, unfortunate, wrong place, wrong time. Race 2, wrong place, wrong time. Race 3, just everything came back to me again. I suppose it was down to the weather. It was the wet was so difficult around Brands. It was at times undrivable.
Oh, indeed, and we saw plenty of that from the outset in qualifying. In a qualifying session where it all came down to the last lap with the circuit gradually drying and no rain falling. A P28 overall and a P2 in class. Definitely a solid effort and something to be happy of. Albeit Sam Bradley putting himself right up inside the top 15 in a bit of a world of his own. But I suspect there's still a smile on your face in qualifying, given the fact that Sam Bradley's a bit of an outside contender at that point. And for yourself, it was really about being one step ahead of the likes of Mitchell West and Daniel Fritz.
Oh, over the moon. Qualifying wasn't the easiest, especially with the weight I had on. And like I said, I've been saying to you for the past few weeks, just keep doing what I'm doing, which at the time was podium, fourth, podium, fourth. Like I said, consistency with points. And then just race 1 kind of ruined that momentum, shall we say.
Or indeed, the momentum fall in race number 1. But take us through from your perspective what happened there, because it looked as though it was a relatively solid start. But the problem is, and you mentioned it earlier, these wet conditions, so many corners around here like Paddock Hill Bend, the car can just let go. And when there's plenty of cars around you as well, it only becomes ever more tricky. But it looked as though as quickly as it got started, you found yourself put to the back.
I got involved in an accident after turn 3. Somebody unfortunately hit the wall and came back onto the track, and there was 2 other cars next to me. There was nowhere for me to go, and I got sideswiped, so to speak. It caused me to have a meatball flag, steering damage, struggled turning left. I couldn't keep up with after the safety car. I got lucky with incidents for other guys in AM class, so I didn't finish last. And when all that happened, I thought, well, my priority is I've got to catch Fritz and just finish as close to him as I can. Just damage limitation on the points this race, and just do my best to secure as many points as I could get my hands on, really.
Well, definitely damage limitation being key, like you say. And going into race number 2, it seemed as though it was all about that once again. Another, what was P37 finish, P7 in class. Race 2 proving to be just as frustrating and challenging as race number 1.
Yes, no. I seem to find a better rhythm, but with the changing conditions moving so fast, I was having to find new braking points every lap, and so many times it caught me out. But again, I could see Fritz and my relative, and I was thinking, just finish one place behind him, just damage limitation. I'm not going to gain many more places in these conditions. I know I've got a 47-point lead, I think it was on the officials. Just hold on to it if I can and do my best.
Well, that's exactly what you did in the end in race number 2, in terms of just holding on and giving it everything to stay one step ahead of one of your major rivals. But then, of course, race number 3 saw much drier conditions to start off the race, at least, plus also top 20 inverted with no AMs inside that. So from your perspective, surely it must have been right. The game's on now. It's got to be head down and just absolutely attack this one.
Well, I don't know if you saw in the build-up to the race, the warm-up, I was a lot more comfortable. I mean, I was, I think, 4/10 off on pace of Mikey Doble, I think it was, in P1, and I was shocked at that. And then I was looking at it, I was thinking I was P39 or 38. And just, again, Fritz, one car in front of me, I've got to get him on the start and just pull away. And I think by the end of lap 1, I had my teammate behind me, Kev, our spotter for the night, come on and tell us that we were P1 and P2 in class at the end of lap 1. I was thinking, how? It was like all my luck returned to me in one race.
Now, of course, we do have to remind our viewers at home, of course, there was the big shunts that did involve a number of drivers on lap number 1, and I do believe that Mitchell West might get caught up in that. So a bit of lady luck coming your way, perhaps, Matt, but also, like you say, the pace you were displaying, and will that pace really shine on through? And that seemed to be the way for the remainder of the race, with Craig in the end falling into the clutches of some of your rivals and doing a solid job in defending. You were just allowed to run away with things to take a P18, although I get the feeling towards the end of the race, with the rain starting to fall, there might have been the question mark at your mind as though, when's this race going to come back to haunt me?
I was asking Kev every single lap, is it this lap for wets? Is it this lap for wets? Kev is getting really difficult to drive. Is it this lap for wets? I think he's going to go to bed dreaming of nightmares of asking how many times I've asked for wet. Is it time for wets? But no, he did really well. He encouraged us, told us what arms were pitting and what weren't, and what to do, how the weather was. And I mean, I forgot to mention that Craig unselfishly, before the safety car, told me to go around the outside of him and take his position off him and build a lead, build up at, we didn't know we were P1 and P2. Took one for the team, so to speak, which I'm very thankful for.
Well, it's fantastic to hear about the team-focused effort there between yourself and Craig. Like you say, Craig taking one for the team, but in at the end, taking one with yourself, taking P1 at the end of the race. Despite some hard fighting with some primes and pros around you, it must have given you a little bit of ease knowing that whilst races 1 and 2 hadn't gone quite the way you wanted it to, at least race number 3 was going to be a victory.
Yes, I must admit it's really massively now thinking, well, as I said to you before, if I can get 1 or 2 podiums, and I know races 1 and 2, I always think it was third from last, were less than ideal. But to come away with a win at the last is put my mind at ease going towards next week, because I think it's going to be very close next week. I think next week in Interlagos is going to be a lot closer than I'd hoped 6 hours ago.
Speaking of the Interlagos circuit, how are you feeling for our season finale? Apart from the championship being close, what are your thoughts on the circuit itself?
I love the circuit. I always have loved that circuit. Never driven it in a TCR though, I'll be honest. There's a lot of overtaking opportunities, but at the same time, there's a lot of opportunities where you can get it wrong. You can botch and overtake, you can do a number of things wrong, and it can ruin your race. If it's race 1, you ruin races 2 and 3. Well, race 2 definitely, race 3 maybe not so much if you get lucky, but it's one where you've got to pick your battles. Even though you think it's a wide track, there's a lot of runoff. It's definitely be a good one to race in.
We definitely look forward to seeing you enjoy the race in action at Interlagos and see whether you can bring that AM crown home after what has been an incredible season of racing from yourself. But just before we do let you go, Matt, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I'd like to thank my teammates Kevin Smith and Craig Tillotson for tonight for all the help and decisions they've made. Thanks to all the sponsors that sponsor us. Thanks to NXTGEN, Jamie, Gavin, everyone involved. It's been a brilliant championship, and thanks to yourself for your excellent and hard work, Paul. And I hope next week my voice can come back, so if I have another interview I can sound better.
Oh, indeed, we'd love to have your voice fully back to normal, Matt, but we have to say thank you still for your kind words and also for sacrificing your vocal cords to join me in the interview room this evening. Congratulations once again on what has been a challenging night of racing, but a winning race number 3, all worth the frustration of races 1 and 2. We look forward to seeing you at Interlagos, but until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening, and thank you once again.
Thanks, Paul.
So hearing that there from Matt Emmons, who I think I might have almost just broken the voice of, and I do apologise, but the Runner Motorsport driver there talking about the double-edged nature of tonight's racing. With qualifying, seeing him qualify P8, I'm very happy with that in a P2, and the fact that he was ahead of all his major rivals in the AM Championship. But then it all went the wrong way. In race 1, major incident, putting him to the back of the field, and in the end finishing P37, P7 in the AM class, and having to then focus on damage limitation from that point onwards. But doing exactly that in race 2 and prioritising making sure he finished ahead of Daniel Fritz, albeit of course at the expense of Mitchell West taking the AM victory. But that's the way he's got to be about it in terms of making sure he stays one step ahead of at least one of his rivals. Then race number 3. It was all chop and change, and by the end of the opening lap, Runner Motorsport leading 1-2 in terms of the team there, with what was his teammate Craig Tillotson sacrificing the lead of the AM class and passing it on to Matt in order to prioritise the AM Championship, and more absolutely brilliant team effort between them. But still at the same time, what we got to see from that point onwards was in the dry, Matt looking absolutely unstoppable, and in the wet, just doing enough to keep it calm and bring the car home to take an all-important win, which could be the deciding victory when all is said and done in a week's time at Interlagos. But then again, it's a circuit he enjoys, but he hasn't raced around it in the TCR machine. So what will be the ending chapter of his story for Season 7? Could he be our AM champion? Well, there will be only one way to find out, ladies and gentlemen, and that will be next week. But then we come to our final interviewee. We've heard from one member of Rana Motorsport, and now we must hear from a second one, and it is going to be very shortly from none other than Craig Tillerson, who we are going to hear the story of, and what has been today a very enjoyable day for Verana Motorsports driver in terms of getting stuck into the fight each and every race, and also bringing home what was a podium in race number 2 and a top 5 class finish in race number 3. But without further ado, joining me in the interview room now is none other than Craig Tillerson. Good evening to you, Craig, and what a day of racing it's been for yourself. I mean, you must be flabbergasted in the fact you've been up, down, you've been around in the AM class order, and along the way picked up 2 top 5s, one of them being an AM class podium.
It's been a good night. Interesting first 2 races, isn't we? We're glad when it dried for third.
Well, being an interesting night, let's start, of course, talking a little bit about qualifying. In the fact, in the end, what was a P42 or P10 in the AM class, qualifying incredibly tricky on a Brands Hatch circuit that was practically waterlogged at the start and gradually drying up a little bit towards the end. But I get the feeling for yourself, it was all a bit of a learning experience out there.
Yeah, it was shocking. You know, I thought it was wet last week at Suzuka, but it felt weird in the rain. Just the track just felt strange. You'd be going down the straight and put brakes on and just lose it completely for no reason.
Well, nightmare conditions to contend with, and so from qualifying to race number 1, we saw in the first race a little bit of progress from yourself. A P9 finishing class, a P39 in the end, although it looked so race 1 carried on from where qualifying left off, which was an absolute nightmare in terms of the conditions out there.
Yeah, it was just shocking. I think I went off a couple of times and you just couldn't get car around. It was just very wet. Got to avoid other people mainly, just finish as well as you can.
Well, that's always an important approach to take, and I think many would learn from that in terms of finish as well as you can and avoid others out there. And we just have to segue, of course, because for yourself today, running one of the classic Verano liveries, I do have to ask, did Kevin, as the team manager, tell you not to get any damage to the paintwork, given it is quite a legendary livery?
Oh, I didn't mention that. I just said, here's your paint, Craig. But it was nice to have a paint for car.
Well, that's absolutely fair. We segue from the paint to race number 2. And in race 2, I mean, everybody, I think, who looks onto the AM class at one point would have been cheering for you to take victory because you were leading for quite some time. In the end, however, Gabriel Yilmaz and what was Mitchell West were to take away 2 spots from yourself. But some fantastic battling out there. How was it for you?
Oh, it was a fun race, to say. I don't mind the wet that much, but it were more a case of finishing where I'd not trusted them both to go past me cleanly. It were like, I'm not going to risk finishing last just to keep the lead. Third were a solid result.
Oh, 100%, and well, important to get the points home as well, like you mentioned, and doing exactly that to take a P3 and add to your ever-increasing number of AM podiums. I believe that might now be your 4th of the season, which is great to see. And coming into race number 3, of course, all the AM class started behind where the grid was reversed from. A dry race to begin with, the rain decided to come in the final third, and in all of it, you're right in the thick of a massive battle between the likes of Daniel Fritz, Roy Plummer, to name a couple of drivers, but also working hard to make sure your teammate Matt Emmons doesn't lose out in the championship.
Yeah, that's what it was all about, keeping as many people as I could behind me, or slow it, being as big a roadblock as I could just to let him pull away from us.
Was a solid defensive effort, and I have to ask, with regards to making yourself as big of a roadblock, was there anywhere in particular where you felt as though, you know what, this is where I can make my car so wide nobody's ever going to find the way through?
Not really. I struggled a bit towards back end at lap, so it was around first 3/4 at lap. It would just go as fast as I can, and then if they catch me in the last few corners, it's what it is.
That's absolutely fair, and it was a great effort from yourself, and finishing the day with another class top 5. And of course, heading from Brands Hatch to Interlagos for our season finale. One more round to go, and in the AM Championship, whilst you may not be in the fight for the championship title, you're definitely in the fight to try and nip your way as close as possible to the top 5. How are you feeling for Interlagos?
I quite like the course. I've raced it a few times in touring cars, so it's just getting it out of your head from racing GT3s. It's all different, completely different, so we'll see how it goes and try and help Matt get towards championship.
Well, a key priority there, and we look forward to seeing how you get on at Interlagos and how you can assist your teammate in his pursuit of the AM Drivers' Championship crown. But Craig, just before we do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Just thanks to the team, Kevin, Matt, for the conversations we had during the race, the strategies, especially at last race when we were trying to decide whether it were worth coming in to put wets on. It suddenly ended up to end at race, and it was like, well, we best not pit on last 2 laps, we'll end up last. So just a big thanks to the team for the talk, and to everyone at NXTGEN for running such a cracking championship.
Well, Craig, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room, and I'm absolutely loving the team atmosphere that you're telling us about there from Vrano Motorsport. Indeed, it's a team that makes it some days when you're on the grid in the NXTCC, and we look forward to plenty more from yourself and the Vrano Motorsport team in our season finale in a week's time. But until then, thank you once again, congratulations on your performance this day, and we will see you in Brazil.
See you next week, Paul. Cracking broadcast as always.
Thank you, Craig. Have a great night. So hearing there from Craig Tillerson, and what a day it's been for the Vrano Motorsport driver today. And the fact there, I think in himself enjoying it, it really shines through in the fact that whilst the conditions were very tricky all the way through the evening, he was able to gradually acclimatise to them and even pull off some great results. Qualifying, of course, not the way we wanted it to go. One of the last of our drivers to set a qualifying lap in terms of the respective times versus the order. But sometimes it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And race number 1, a little bit of progress to be made, but mention there the fact it was very challenging to keep the car on the circuit and bring it on home, but did so and got some points. Race number 2, that's where we saw Craig Tillerson start to make his way forward, and at one point leading in the AM class and fighting hard to keep the likes of Gabriel Yilmaz and Mitchell West behind. Albeit in the end, he was to fall to P3, but added another AM podium to his trophy cabinet, and a well-deserved one at that. And then coming on through into race number 3, well, there we got to see him step it up a notch and give it everything in the pursuit of working with his teammate, his teammate Matt Emmons, in order to try and bring on home a great team result and also assist Matt in his AM Drivers' Championship chase. As we saw over the course of the distance, a 1-2 initially from the team, albeit the driver swapping the place around and Craig relinquishing that lead in order to give Matt every opportunity, and then Craig just making his car as wide as possible for every AM driver that chased him. And while some did get on through, in the end he was able to hold his ground well enough to take a P28 overall, but most importantly a P5 in the AM class. And I suspect we're going to see plenty more of that from the number 34 driver Interlagos. But how can he factor into his teammates' championship aspirations, and can he potentially bring home some further top 5s and podiums of his own in Brazil in our finale? Well, we will see all that in a week's time. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our interviews for today, and we'd like to say a special thank you once again to all of our AM drivers who volunteered their time, I should say, in order to join me for post-round interviews, and they did include, first and foremost, the 284 of Costa Chatscons Nantanu for 287 Motorsport, then our number 72 driver for Vrano Motorsport, Matt Emmons, and last but not least, his teammate in the number 34, Craig Tillerson. And thank you to all of them for joining me, and indeed congratulations to them all on their fantastic race results all the way to each and every checker flag. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we would normally at this point bring you what was the points tables, or the provisional points tables, going into the season finale in this instance, but unfortunately we haven't quite been able to get those updated, so therefore you're just going to be left in waiting and left in tension, and we will give you the full update on the championship standings when we kick off the broadcast for round number 10 in a week's time. So therefore it does mean it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about NXTGEN Racing in terms of what we do as a community, both on and off the virtual and the real life motorsporting circuit, well, for all that and more, we definitely recommend you check out firstly our official website, and that's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk. And as our website appears on screen, as we continue on through our 17th year of hosting sim racing series and leagues, there's never been a better time to join the NXTGEN Racing community and be part of an ever-growing community of sim racers. Whether you're a rookie all the way through to an esports professional, there's a place for you on a NXTGEN Racing grid. And there you'll find out all the latest information regarding our ongoing and upcoming series, and how you can become part of the community and join the official Discord. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, well, of course you can follow us on Facebook, and the best place to go to is our official Facebook group, and that's at facebook.com/groups/NextGen Racing. There you can find out more about the guys and girls behind the scenes who make up NXTGEN Racing, including the staff members who are not just marshals and also organisers on the virtual circuit, but also spend their time tirelessly on the real circuit, either as trackside marshals, organisers, alternatively do a bit of racing of their own. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, who do include PowerMax, Next Level Racing, Mark Sykes Designs, Joyce Design, Douglas Motorsport, Sam Cases UK, Only Racing, Falconer PC Builds and Support, Benji Sim Photos, and of course a special thank you to our title sponsor for this season, Doble Motorcycles. If you're in the market looking for a Honda on 2 wheels, preferably of the motorcycle type, well, there's no better dealership in the United Kingdom for a Honda motorcycle than at Doble Motorcycles. The family-run business, which has motorsport in its veins, will definitely sell you an absolutely cracking deal of a motorcycle there if you're looking for a motorcycle with the legendary Power Dreams H badge. And indeed, at Doble Motorcycles, the #1 place to go to. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attentions now turn to our season finale in a week's time, and round 10 of 10 is around the corner. All chapters and all pages of the season 7 storybook of the NXTCC have led to one final chapter in the novel, because in round 10 we make our way to the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, or Interlagos as it's known, and could we see some last minute dramatic moments with the overall Drivers' Championship effectively sealed up in the favour of Wojciech Swirydowicz? It does mean the attentions now turn to the Open Championships of the Prime class, where Ben Altrier will look to try and hold on for one last round. In the AM class, Matt Emmons versus Daniel Fritz versus Mitchell West will take centre stage. And in the Teams Championship, NXTGEN Pink will feel as though they've got the momentum on their side, but can they come on home to make it 4 Teams Championships in a row? Well, for all that and more, you'll need to tune in on Tuesday the 8th of October in a week's time to find out how the story ends. But until then, we've been NXTGEN Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, that's all from us here at NXTGEN Racing, the home of clean and fair sim racing for all.